statement.
Yes, this was rendered by the Minister of Mines and Minerals Development. This was on the status of Konkola Copper Mine, KCM, and Mopani Copper Mine. And so, still to come on the order paper, we have a resumption of a debate. This is on a motion of thanks, His Excellency the President's address. And so, like my colleague mentioned, that we will be giving you details of these later on. For now, we take a break. Remember, business of the House resumes at 17 hours. Keep watching Parliament Television. Good afternoon.
Madam Speaker, upon assuming office, we committed to guaranteeing security of supply of petroleum products. To achieve this, government has disengaged from procuring, as we said before, disengaged from procuring and financing petroleum products to allow for more private sector participation in the supply chain. A structured, Madam Speaker, a structured and coordinated system is being implemented for importing petroleum products at a competitive price to ensure sustainability of supply and stability of pump prices. It's a process we're going through, and the benefits will be seen soon. Save the international oil prices increments, which we have no control over. But things under our control, the government is working on them. To mitigate the high prices of petroleum products on account of global supply chains, as I've said, supply chain price changes, the government has operationalized the Tazama pipeline to transport low sulfur diesel, meeting, unfortunately, only 80% of Zambia's domestic consumption. Some of it still has to come on road. There is a bit of distortion which we need to address, and we are working on that. We are fully aware of the challenges being faced in this sector and how these are affecting local business and our citizens in terms of the effect on the increase in the cost of doing business, and hence the efforts by government to address these issues head on. No skating around the problems. The problem is existing elsewhere. We tackle it, Madam Speaker, as we are tackling milli prices, including going in the communities to hear the voices of the community. Madam Speaker, this is an important culture to accept that we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 well. We are yet to do 8, 9, 10, 11. That is the way it should work. Madam Speaker, the importance of infrastructure for our country cannot be overemphasized. To this end, the government is constructing and rehabilitating public roads and bridges, mainly through the public-private partnership financing model, Madam Speaker. This is another point I want to emphasize to this House. The model before in infrastructure development led us to a debt mountain. We should not get there anymore. This government is ingenious. So we've come up with a public-private partnership model, encouraging partners who are structuring transactions on a debt and lumbering the balance sheet with more debt. We've said no. Now we have achieved success in this area. I'm proud to say, Madam Speaker, very proud to say. And I think every Zambian must be proud that we will save the national balance sheet from more debt by being ingenious and work on a financing model that does not allow the taxpayer to pay even $1 for a road such as Chingola, Chirilabombwe, Kasumbalesa. It is there. Taste of the pudding is in the eating. Anyone can walk there, better quality, no dollar on the balance sheet, but delivers the services to the users. Very smart. Very smart. Using the model, Madam Speaker, Using this model, Madam Speaker, the much talked about Lusaka Ndola Highway, 327 kilometers of the road, which 3 years ago, a contract was given for $1.3 billion without interest. With interest, $1.8 billion. This road now, Madam Speaker, is under construction at a far less cost of around $600 million. But, Madam Speaker, not a single kwacha will be spent by the taxpayer. It's all outside the national balance sheet. That's how we should work. That's how we should work. Address problems squarely, yet achieve growth. It's not a contradiction, it's complementary. Madam Speaker, I am the first one to say we are slow. As the UPND New Dawn government, we are slow. I have asked, Madam Speaker, the PPP Council, all the sectors involved here, and I'm getting involved. I'm getting my hands dirty so we can do more of such projects. We can do more within 1 year. Not just in the road sector, Madam Speaker, in housing, in bulk water supply, in water harvest, for irrigation, for productivity. We can do more, and we are going to do more. What we need, Madam Speaker, is the support of this House as we are amending various pieces of legislation. They will come to this floor, and I'm asking this House to work speedily to approve those amendments, which will allow us to make Zambia do some construction across the whole country, Madam Speaker. We have continued, Madam Speaker, rehabilitating and maintaining rural roads across the country. Currently, over 1,700 kilometers of these roads have been rehabilitated and maintained in the Central Province, Northern Province, Luapula Province, Eastern Province, Southern, Muchinga provinces, and more provinces will follow. Further, Madam Speaker, works on the 2,900 kilometers of roads will commence in the same provinces and in other provinces very, very soon. Western, Northwestern, and Copper Belt provinces are soon basically to come on board. I dare say Chibuluma Road. Chibuluma Road. Chibuluma Road. Very important to our country. Chibuluma Road. Thank you. Madam Speaker, through the purchase of road building equipment under the enhanced CDF, constituencies across the country, Madam Speaker, I'm very delighted, and I'm sure you are, Madam Speaker, that the constituencies are now able to buy their own road maintenance equipment. Madam Speaker, the last time such capacity was created at the constituency level was under KK's leadership. Never before since then did we see the yellow big machines in the constituencies constructing roads. It is now happening across the whole country. And we know that feeder roads now will be of better quality, and road users will be able to enjoy driving on those roads for economic activity, for tourism, for everything. Madam Speaker, again, that's how the economy works. There's no other magic. That's how the economy works. You will see the impact of this on such things as vehicles for our people lasting longer. Lesser distances covered in lesser time, which means efficiencies in the economy. That was the intention from day one when we were still in opposition. We are pleased that we are doing it now. Madam Speaker, the construction and maintenance of aviation infrastructure is another important aspect. We said so in opposition. And now we are in a position, courtesy of the Zambian people, to deal with these issues. Our provincial airports, very important strategic assets in the economy, are being prioritized. As a start, Madam Speaker, we have constructed a 3-kilometer runway and rehabilitated the terminal buildings at Kasama Airport in Northern Province. Madam Speaker, we committed to Mwine Lubemba just a year ago when we went to Kusefya Pangwena that this airport will be different within a year. And today we can sit here proudly and say it is different. It is better. It is better. And planes can land in the night. Before you had to rush to be at the airport by 17 hours, otherwise you won't take off. Now you can take off 01, 02, land 04 in the morning. That's the economy. That's how it works. Madam Speaker, Kasama Airport can now accommodate larger aircraft and is poised to enhance tourism, mining, agriculture, and increase trade and investment in the northern circuit to spur social economic development. Madam Speaker, going forward, all provincial airports, openly, happy to say so people can check it out, that all provincial airports will be furnished with improved runways, airfield ground lighting systems, including runway systems, starting with Kasama, as I said, airport this year, to enhance aviation safety and security and support economic growth agenda that we are envisaging. This will be followed after Kasama, Solwezi upgrade, and which one else? Mansa, 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 Mansa. We are conscious of the politics of our country. That's why we are moving that way. Be patient. Those other problems, just wait. We'll come to you. But after Kasama, we're going to Solwezi, we're going to Mansa. But we'll come to you. Further, we attach great importance to our traditional leaders. Hence, the construction of palaces for all our traditional leaders across the country without discrimination. Madam Speaker, without discrimination. We are one Zambia, one nation, one people. We don't know discrimination ourselves. What we know is service delivery to all our people. Traditional leaders were living in squalor. The palaces were unrecognizable. This will be a thing of the past in the next 2 years. Then we can move on to other things, block by block, until we get there. Human and social development. Madam Speaker, the UPND New Dawn government continues to build on gains made in education, health, as well as the water and sanitation sectors. Our administration is also addressing vulnerability and inequity among our people in this sphere. Our free education policy, Madam Speaker, proudly to say so, our free education policy has created opportunities for all our citizens to access education. It doesn't matter where they are, which parentage they are born from, what language they speak, how old they are. They are all welcome to go back to school. To avoid compromising the quality of education, Madam Speaker, government has continued to increase learning spaces. Government has continued to increase learning spaces. The construction of 149 secondary schools across the country, many of which were abandoned for 10 years, have now been completed, Madam Speaker, in the last 2 years. And all the schools are now operational. And this is what we call wastage of resources. 10 years, these schools were not touched because they were started by MMD. We do not recognize which government started, which party started the infrastructure. As long as it's a government infrastructure, public infrastructure, the New Dawn government will go ahead and complete it. So we move it from an idle asset to a productive asset. Big difference. Big difference. Very important. In addition, Madam Speaker, 132 early childhood and 61 secondary schools are at various levels of completion. These are new now, to add on to completing what we inherited, which were idle for the 10 years. So 12 years minus 10, so 10. And you know what I mean. Further, Madam Speaker, government has continued to produce desks, very important, through various forms of financing, such as the Constituency Development Fund, just as one facility. As of July 2023, let's talk about numbers again, Madam Speaker. A total number of 373,448 new desks had been procured, out of which 353,120 were procured through the CDF alone. About 747,696 pupils, Madam Speaker, are now learning while seated on desks. We said so when we took office. Arguments ensued. Here it is. Here it is, Madam Speaker. All of us in this house must be proud that our own children are sitting on desks now. No segregation. No segregation. Unlike before, Madam Speaker, all these desks, I repeat, unlike before, Madam Speaker, all these desks are being produced locally by our citizens across the country, our youth, our women, creating the much needed jobs and saving on foreign exchange. Before, all these desks will have been imported and you will have created jobs in other countries. Now, skills training under CDF, carpenters, plumbers are making our desks and supplying. Then the money is being spent in the local communities. That's why we are changing the Public Procurement Act to allow for local procurement of goods and services, Madam Speaker. That's how it works. That's how it works.
Much for still being with us on Parliament television. At the time, business was suspended at 16:40 hours for a 20 minutes health break. On the floor of the House was Nkana Member of Parliament, Mr. Binwe Mpundu, who is the seconder to a motion that has been moved by Mwandi Member of Parliament, Ms. Sibeso Sefulo, urging the House to adopt the report of the parliamentary delegation to the 63rd session of the Organization of African. And so just now we cross over to the... Requirement that 1/3 of members of parliament must be present in the house for any business to take place. And at the time, business was suspended at 16:40 hours. On the floor of the house was the seconder to a motion that has been moved by Mwandi Member of Parliament, Ms. Sibeso Sefulo. This is urging the House to adopt the report of the parliamentary delegation to the 63rd session of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States Parliamentary Assembly.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion by the Honorable Member for Mwandi that this House to adopt the report of the parliamentary delegation to the 63rd session of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States Parliamentary Assembly and the 43rd session of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly held in Brussels, Belgium from 19th to 28th June 2023. For the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 11th September 2023, and the Honorable Member for Nkana was seconding the motion. May the Honorable Member continue.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. Before I was interrupted by the call for the break, I was trying to explain for the benefit of the members. Madam Speaker, there's quite a lot of noise.
Can we have order, please? Can we move quietly to our seats?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was trying to say that for the benefit of the members who are here, Madam Speaker, the Organization of African, Caribbean, Pacific States is an organization of countries in Africa, in the Pacific region, as well as in the Caribbean region. Now, these countries are represented to this organization by parliaments. And this parliament, Madam Speaker, has sent members to be part of this grouping. It is therefore important that members of parliament must understand what goes on in this organization. It's also important to also highlight that apart from the OACP meeting, there is now a joint assembly between the OACP and the European Union. So the last meeting we had was 2 meetings broken down into a meeting of the OACP, and then afterward we had a joint parliamentary assembly with the European Union. It is therefore important, Madam Speaker, and we want to thank you for having facilitated through your leadership a team to travel for this engagement. And for a very long time, there's only been one member that has been traveling, and that is why we've never had a report laid on the floor. So we want to thank you that after facilitating a good number of people traveling, we now have a report so that members can understand what is it that we go to undertake when we go out for these engagements. Now, Madam Speaker, so I have highlighted the fact that the OACP, which is an organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries, have this organization, but they've also joined hands with the Europeans. Now, what that brings to us are benefits, because the European Union have made commitments to help countries in the Pacific, in Africa, and in Caribbean in issues of trade, in issues of politics, in issues of social cooperation. You are aware, Madam Speaker, that not long ago, we received a delegation from the European Union that came into Zambia to try and support government. For a very long time, Zambia had lost support from the European Union, but that support has come. All these are coming through these collaborations, and Zambia is participating through that committee that you sent to this engagement. So, Madam Speaker, let me highlight 2 issues that came out from our deliberation in Brussels. Number one, as highlighted by...
The Honorable Member Fonkana, please, maybe a minute. There's too much noise. If people want to caucus, I think they are free to go out so that we can listen to this beautiful report and also cover the other item on our agenda for today. But there's too much caucusing going on by different people. Can we please give chance to the Honorable Member for Fonkana so that we get what is trying to tell us about the report? Very important report. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for that guidance. And I want to invite members of Parliament to follow through this conversation because it's very important. For some reason, members would think that when we go out, we just go for window dressing or window shopping. Madam Speaker, when we go out, particularly this trip we took, Zambia stands to benefit from what the Europeans have put on the table. Like I did mention, the Europeans came here to try and support Zambia. And this is not coming from the blues, it's coming from these engagements. And we are lucky that we are part of this organization. Remember, not every country in Africa is a member of the OACPS. So Zambia is lucky to be part of this organization, and we're also lucky that the delegation leader is part of the bureau, which makes decisions for this organization. So, Madam Speaker, let me make a request through you, Madam Speaker, that I have found a challenge. When the grouping is undertaking a trip, there's a disconnect between ministries responsible and the grouping. It's important that before we take a trip, Parliament summons ministries to sit down so that we can rehearse and form a position on many of these issues that are discussed in these outings. Because when we meet in these outings, member states agree on common understanding relating to issues of politics, issues of trade, and the likes. So, one critical issue, Madam Speaker, that members would want to know. Today, there is a rush by the Europeans to Africa to come and tap into critical raw materials. The conversation on the table is that, as opposed to what used to be in the past, where Westerners would come and get raw materials in their raw form, the conversation now, as agreed by member states, is that we must have a common voice that no raw materials should move out of Africa in their raw form. Now, the danger is this. Through this memorandum of understanding, the Europeans are also clever to cash in. Their agenda is to go and entice or have a conversation with each country, meaning they are trying to break the countries apart instead of having a common voice. So it's important that every country that is engaging the European does not depart from what is agreed in the meetings of the OACP, so that you have one common understanding. And the understanding now in relation to critical raw materials is that the Europeans, if they are coming here to look for our critical raw materials, they must come and invest here. Our raw materials must not go out. Now, if we are not careful, they will come and they would come and obviously bring goodies, and we are bound to give way to these raw materials and depart from what has commonly been agreed by member states, that no raw materials must move out of the African continent in their raw form. So it's important, Madam Speaker, that these conversations do not just end up in reports. They must be followed through so that there's an interaction between the ministries that are responsible, because ministries are engaging the Europeans. Meanwhile, your members, through this grouping, are going to have a conversation and they are forming a position which may actually differ with what is being agreed at the ministerial level. So, Madam Speaker, I thought that it's important that this report is studied through by the members to understand, and that Parliament also takes a keen interest, not just to send people and spend money, but also to ensure that we follow on the deliberations and the resolutions that were made in these undertakings. Madam Speaker, we thank you for having given us the opportunity to lay this report on the floor of the House. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chitambo.
Madam Speaker, just to add a few words on this very wonderful report that the House has been treated to today. Madam Speaker, this Organization of Africa, Caribbean, Pacific States is a very important organization which we must pay attention to. And Madam Speaker, going forward, it is my suggestion that we come up with a caucus in the House to look at matters that are affecting this organization. I took time, Madam Speaker, to read on their recommendations. Just like any other country, they've given us instructions that the next delegation we're sending there, we should ensure that 30% are women. And they've gone further, Madam Speaker, to state that subscriptions to be paid towards these organizations are very important. All I don't know, Madam Speaker, is at what level are we pushing for the subscriptions? Because as Parliament, we are very much interested in this organization. Also, Madam Speaker, we chair a very important organ of this organization. And it was very nice to see our Honorable Member of Parliament chairing and representing Zambia. So it will be very important to look at the issue of paying subscriptions. I don't know whether we are up to date or we are owing. If at all we are owing, Madam Speaker, my appeal to you is help us push so that we can remain as members to this very, very important organization. Madam Speaker, among their recommendations, they also stated that because of not recognizing so much this important organization, they want whatever is being deliberated on to be broadcasted on social media platforms. Indeed, it's true, because even here in Parliament seated, very few of us know about this organization, Madam Speaker. So it will be very important that our Parliament, through our parliamentary radio and TV, we broadcast programs to show the importance of this organization. Madam Speaker, like Honorable Binwa Mpunda has put it, that this organization is looking at raw materials, the way they are being extracted in Africa. That should be an area of concern that we should put a lot of importance to ensure that we benefit from the ideas that our colleagues from the Caribbean and other states are bringing on the table. With that said, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Feira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would like to thank the delegation to the Organization of African, Pacific, and Caribbean Nations. Madam Speaker, I just want to add on a few words to the report, basically focusing on the just ended meeting where the issue of raw materials from Africa into the European Union was discussed. Madam Speaker, we need as Africans to understand what happens in the world and how international relations operates, particularly between the North and the South, or the bigger countries and smaller economies. Madam Speaker, an organization such as this one sounds very interesting and very good in furtherance of our national objectives. However, there's always one problem, which is the funding to this organization. My colleagues have already talked about contributions or subscriptions by member states. What normally happens, the same countries we are negotiating about raw materials and setting up manufacturing industries in Africa, they will be the ones funding these organizations, their secretariat, their operations, and even the meeting. At the end of the day, this undermines Africa's objectives. Yeah. And indeed, as already said, the EU will go to from one country to the other, and entice them to agree and have separate agreements other than this. And at the end of the day, all these efforts will be nothing. Madam Speaker, I would have even loved that the meeting, yes, it's good to go to Europe, that meeting should have been in Africa, or at least in the Caribbean. And indeed, the agenda should not be set by Europeans. It should have been set by ourselves. By the way, like I said that there are developed countries and us less developed. Actually, we are richer. Because if you have resources and assets, you are actually rich. And unfortunately, our strength in terms of negotiation, we are made to believe that those that have the dollars, the billions of dollars in the mining sector and so on, have a higher say. And every time we should be able to subject ourselves. And I take note that this organization has actually been in existence in for a long period of time. There was the EU Cotton Agreements, there was, the Lome Convention, all to do with the same thing. My submission really is that it's time for Africans to die a little, to finance our objectives. Because it's good, we always agree on the objectives, but we do not agree on paying paying subscription to the organization that needs to spearhead our objectives. So with these few words, I just want to say that I thank the committee, and I hope that with what we have said and what has been the pitfalls in these organizations such as SADC, even the African Union, they all suffer from the same problem. The EU and other international organizations are funding the African Union. And at the end of the day, we have a problem to have our strength as Africans and the unity that we talk about. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kafulaputa.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for this opportunity to add a few thoughts to this report. The OACPS EU has proved to be a very important partnership between the African and Caribbean nations. And it is in this vein that I wish to strongly urge government, rather Ministry of Commerce, to continue, to continue paying our subscriptions to the partnership, because I think the experience is that as Africans, we are very, very rich in minerals and other things, whereas our colleagues from the European nations or the Western worlds don't have what we have, but they have the technology that we need to process what we've got. The only major thing that I seem to see is that there has to be some equity in this partnership. What I mean is the playing field must be leveled, because I think it's very easy for our colleagues from the West to come and dictate the terms of trade in whichever way, whereas we are left to be receivers to whatever they would have dictated. So having dealt with this, it is something that I think was discussed at the conference, how that as African nations, we would like to feel that we are partners in this relationship, and we don't have the big boy and the small boy, meaning that we must be all equal. It was something that I think was dealt with very, very effectively when we looked at that point, and suggestions were made that since the EU negotiates, has a block to, for example, they will come to Zambia as EU to negotiate for trade terms, we as Africans should come to the point where we learn to negotiate as a team too, so that we don't allow our colleagues from the West to divide us and dictate the terms. Otherwise, this is a partnership that is very, very cardinal for us as Africans, looking at the fact that I've already alluded to. We have the minerals, but we don't have the technology. And it was very, very interesting and impressive to see our delegation leader argue this point, which was actually backed by, I must say, all African countries that were present, to say that we cannot export our jobs, export raw materials, which in turn will come back to us at a very high cost. So we would rather deal with our raw materials, export them as finished products, and that would definitely create employment for our people in Africa. Though our Western friends, I'm sure, were caught, caught napping, because they did not expect what they were taught during the meeting. The other matter that was of major interest is that of human rights. And we had some people from certain nations who brought in the issue of, gay rights and so on. It was hotly debated. And it looks like, to a very large extent, African nations now seem to be moving together. I think was very, very encouraging to us. And I just wish to say, as Zambia, we need to continue on this trajectory, because it's clear that we have a very, very wealthy nation as Zambia. Almost all the minerals, the raw materials that are envied or rather desired by the Western worlds are based here in Zambia. So, Madam Speaker, without taking too much of your time, I wish to support this report and encourage everybody else to do so, because this is something that we need as Zambia. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwandi wind-up debate.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much. Let me start by appreciating all the honorable members that had time to look at our report and read it. I hope that those that did not have time will actually find time to read this report, because it's very, very important. Let me thank the honorable member from Nkana for seconding the report, the honorable member for Chitambo who spoke about women representation in regards to the 30%. I'm glad to mention that the permanent representative of this committee is actually a woman. So that speaks to also how much Zambia is striving in this representation. Number two, he also spoke about the paying up of the subscriptions. I'm glad to inform the House that actually through the executive, Zambia is a paid up member and all our subscriptions are paid. And also in regards to the visibility of this organization, it is very, very important that I don't 100% agree that so little is known about this very, very important committee that deals with investment and trade in regards to the EU. So we need to do more to make sure that our committee is very, very visible. I would also love to thank the Honorable Member of FERA for that very, very eloquent debate in regards to our report. Let me also make mention, honorable members, actually the debate in regards to raw materials, for us to be able to make a resolution on critical raw materials was actually moved by Zambia. So Zambia moved that stance in this meeting, and we had the support of other African countries to making sure that the OSCPS can take a stance in regards to the exportation of raw materials. We want all the value additions to be done in our respective countries, and we are glad and we agree that the EU is also of the same idea, that the value addition should be done in our respective countries, so that we don't export jobs, so that also we can also exchange the technological know-how. We can also try and solve the issues in regards to migration, because we don't need to go to Europe, because the jobs will be right here. So thank you so much, Honorable Member of FERA. I would also want to thank Honorable Mulebwa for that job well done in regards to the debate. Also, just lastly, Madam Speaker, allow me to also say we are actually looking forward as a desk to having a caucus on trade and investment, and we are hopeful that honorable members will support this caucus so that it can inform us in regards to exactly what is happening with the EU and other cooperating partners that are looking for investment opportunities in Zambia, and we are hopeful that we can launch this caucus at least early next year, to making sure that there is that caucus and that interaction. With that being said, Madam Speaker, I'm grateful that honorable members have taken time to read and support our report. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. These names are for what? We are winding up the report. I put the question. The question is that this House do adopt the report or the parliamentary delegation to the 63rd session or the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States Parliamentary Assembly and the 43rd session of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly, held in Brussels, Belgium from 19th to 28th June 2023, for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 11th September 2023. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it, and the question is resolved in the affirmative. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Thanks, His Excellency the President's address. Motion, 13th September, resumption of debate.
When the House adjourned yesterday, Wednesday, 13th September 2023, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Mwandi that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the President's address. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Fera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just to add on to what my colleagues have said on the presidential speech to the third session of this National Assembly. Madam Speaker, I just want to start by recognizing the fact that the President was kind enough to inform the nation that it is true. Development and governance is not a straightforward issue. This was made clear. And this underscores the fact that when you are in opposition, you can make dreams, criticize, and yet learn that actually there's more. Madam Speaker, the key issue that I want to bring up about, which is from the people of Fera in Luangwa district, essentially they've asked me to talk about the cost of living. Madam Speaker, the price of mealie meal has led to serious hunger. People are now spending 2 days without eating. And indeed, Madam Speaker, this is real. I just want to make this point very clear. We should not come here and mislead the President. When things are in a certain way, people, this is a complaint that is there. And this is not about politics. That being the case, equally, because of the high fuel prices, there's also high cost of living, which has been impacted by some of those factors of production. Madam Speaker, in the agricultural sector, we were informed that 1,024,000 beneficiaries were benefited from FISIP. Madam Speaker, it's important that instead of changing the beneficiaries, we should actually increase the beneficiaries. This issue of maize goes straight to our livelihood. We cannot, blind ourselves to the fact that with mealie meal being not only accessible, but also, difficult to access in terms of pricing, is real. The President did mention that our maize has come under pressure from the region. This has always been the case. It's not a new thing. The only problem has been that we have decided to forget what we were taught, even at primary school. We can only sell to others after we have, we are satisfied that we have enough for ourselves. What is happening? These exports, some of them which are done underground, are not going to help us. And they will actually ensure that shortages and high prices of mealie meals continue coming, because there's low supply of all these things. Madam Speaker, there was also mention of avocados being exported to Europe and flowers. Again, this is not a new thing. And to me, this cannot be said as an achievement, because actually we can't even see the impact on the economy. These are issues from the 80s. Flowers have been exported to Europe, avocados, this and that. So we were expecting the real issues. And the real issue being to address the hunger situation in the country. And I would want, the Minister of Agriculture to give detail On what strategies? Those strategies the president talked about, but did not give details. On how, clearly, hunger will be ended. We cannot sit down here. Yes, we are MPs, perhaps we are better off, but people out there, Kalingalinga, in Fair and so on, everywhere around the country, there are all these problems. So even in Pika, in fact, I thought Pika was better, but even Pika, Madam Speaker, the real elephant in the room, Ninsala. Hunger, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me also just address myself, the little time that I have, to the mining sector. Madam Speaker, like I said, when you are outside, in Bemba they said, you can only admire the roof of a house, not what is inside. When you get into government, notwithstanding the heavy criticism on vendetta, now we are told that vendetta is coming back with all its flaws. Tax evasion, not paying the suppliers, and many other flaws. I think that the Minister of Mines should give detail. What is it that is good that you have seen now, which you do not see before this? Yes, I agree. It's always good to have out-of-court settlements. But why do the courts exist? Is it not to determine disputes? Zambia declared a dispute on vendetta because of so many issues. And I'm meant to believe that an assessment was done. If you look at the petition that led to the liquidation of KCM, it outlines the ills. And this company actually had been, actually let me use the word stealing, because a lot of, profits were, they were sent out of the country. Now, Madam Speaker, the issue is that, yes, it's true we can have an out-of-court settlement, but it should not be for the sake of it. We need to ensure that we do not lose in the long term. Yes, we're saying that we can't mine in the courts. The courts are there to ensure that the rights of Zambia are guaranteed. And by the way, we need to ensure that we set a precedent. Now, this precedent we have set by entering into consent judgment. We will ensure that at the end of the day, any other company will do the same, because they know that they'll take us to court, and we are scared of court because they're saying no mining should take place in court, or no other company should, we should not, as a country, get into court. We must, fight in court, determine the matter up to the end. Madam Speaker, I heard the Minister of Mines saying that KCM will actually start making profits after 4 years. On what basis? If KCM is not ready to mine, why have we given them? And I'm aware that they're asking for a debt of 1.3 billion from Standard Chartered Bank, meaning that there's something wrong financially with this company. So anyway, we wait to see what happens. Madam Speaker, allow me to also talk about the tourism. I'm an advocate of tourism, but I have problems with the way the people, because particularly, the tourism sector is controlled by foreign companies, on how they actually, make a lot of money here, and most of this money does not hit the account in Zambia. They keep their accounts offshore. The tourists who come in, they pay out there, they only get the service in Zambia. And I have a problem with that. And I think that once we count the numbers coming in, we should also count how much has Zambia earned. At the same time, the President did mention that there are a number of flights that have started coming, and airlines such as Mozambican Airlines, Turkish Airlines. I agree. And this is very simple. The rehabilitation and the reconstruction of KK International Airport, Ndola Airport, as well as, Sausage Airport, I'm told, Madam Speaker, as well as the Harimanga Kumbula. This is because of the standard of these airports, that's why we see these planes coming in. So I think that was important for the President to acknowledge that the President did a good job. Kasama Airport, yes, we are happy, but it's only 3 kilometers. The airport has always existed anyway. Yeah. Electricity. The issue of power is very, very important. I have a message from Luangwa district. The people are saying that actually we need to ensure that we have access of this electricity. The grid we are using for export, but no local usage. Madam Speaker, I wanted to also talk about consent judgments which UPND.
Your time is up.
I may not have 1 minute to wind up. I just wonder. I have a mouthful, Madam Speaker.
No.
I thank you. I leave it for another day.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nakonde.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to debate on this very important speech for the official opening of the third session of the 13th National Assembly by the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Madam Speaker, I'm very happy that today UPND can confirm that development is not a straightforward journey. Madam Speaker, that is on page 1. President confirmed here that development is not a straightforward journey than what used to be when they were in opposition. Madam Speaker, you can recall that in opposition, the UPND had all the solutions. Madam Speaker, they had a solution even to the rising price of meal. Madam Speaker, UPND in opposition promised the Zambian people that you never buy pamelas. Madam Speaker, I came with an evidence so that maybe you cannot know the pamela. Madam Speaker, this is the pamela that the UPND promised the Zambian people.
Order, Honorable Member. It's not allowed, eh? Okay. Order, Honorable Member. You are not allowed to bring such things in the house.
It's evidence. It's evidence.
Order, Honorable Members. Order.
It's evidence.
Otherwise, we are going to see a lot of honorable members coming into this house with a lot of samples or items.
It's evidence, Madam Speaker.
It's not allowed.
It's evidence.
Well guided, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. I came with it because I didn't have a word in English, so I thought maybe I can just demonstrate.
Order, Honorable Member. Pardon? Can that item be handed over to security so that it's out of this house? And honorable members, can we please be focused to the report? Let's try as much as possible, focus on the report, just to help our Zambians who didn't listen to the report, pick something out of it. Can we be focused? Honorable member, you may continue.
Well guided, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I was stating to say I'm happy that now the new Dawn administration, they are able to confirm that development is not a straightforward issue. Madam Speaker, people out there, how I wish, Madam Speaker, this could be a question and answer session so that I can ask some questions to some people who promised us that meal one day will be bought at 50 kwacha. Madam Speaker, where is that solution? We want to find out where has that solution gone to, because they were providing the alternative policy when they were in opposition. But now, why is it that they cannot work out on the price of meal? Madam Speaker, as I'm speaking now, the people of Nakonde, they're buying meal at 350 kwacha. The people of Shangombo, they're buying meal at 350 kwacha. Others, they're buying at 400 kwacha. And yet, when they were campaigning, they were promising the people of Zambia that milk will be bought at 50 kwacha. So the question which is there is, when are we going to start buying milk at 50 kwacha? Madam Speaker, not only that, the same people, they are the solution then in opposition, that dollar is going to trade between 5 kwacha and 10 kwacha. Madam Speaker, when I was just checking the dollar today, Madam Speaker, the dollar is trading at 21. 21 kwacha, Madam Speaker. Going to 26. And we were told to say 10 hours and 14 hours. You know the history of 10 hours and 14 hours. Madam Speaker, the Zambian people want to know, why is it that whatever you promised us is not working? Is it that you just wanted to use us as Zambians? The Zambian people want to know, why is it that fuel is at 30 kwacha when you were supposed to trade at... Madam Speaker, I know a lot of people would want to disturb me because this is real. Madam Speaker, about electricity.
Order, honorable member. There's an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Minister for Southern Province.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And as you could see, I was relaxed and very reluctant to rise on a point of order until the situation got out of hand. Madam Speaker, in terms of our standing orders, a debate on the floor of the motion of the nature as the one in Castle is supposed to be debated in context of the motion. Is the Honorable Member of Parliament on the floor of the House? In order, Madam Speaker, to begin to debate electoral promises of UPND before forming government, when, Madam Speaker, this administration is 2 years in government, has moved on and is now executing policies that are contemporary, policies, Madam Speaker, that are addressing the challenges of the people of this country. Including the minimum prices. Madam Speaker, on a very serious note, is the Honorable Member on the floor of the House in order to deviate his debate from the presidential address to this House on Friday and begin to talk about electoral promises that were made a long time ago and for which, Madam Speaker, the majority of them are being executed. I need your serious ruling.
Order, honorable members. I think I had guided to say, much as we want to include so many other things, let us be focused to this speech. Whatever we are talking about, whatever we are including in our debate, it should be related to the speech, the content of the speech that we are looking at. Let's not dwell so much on things that are not in the report. I'm sure there are a lot of things that the president mentioned. If we agree, we don't agree, let's hammer on those things rather than trying to bring out things which they are all over. Let's try to be focused to the report that is on the floor of the House. The honorable member on the floor, please continue, keeping that guide in mind.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Madam Speaker, the cost of living for an ordinary Zambian now is unbearable, which I'm happy even the president confirmed in his report. Madam Speaker, when you talk about the cost of living, you cannot talk about the cost of living in isolation without talking about the cost of the price of fertilizer. As we are speaking now, Madam Speaker, the fertilizer, Madam Speaker, is being bought at 850, and yet we are promised at 250 kwacha. These are real issues. So if you want to curb and if you want to have production, we need to reduce fertilizer to 250 kwacha. Madam Speaker, the President also talked about an increase in CDF. I'm even worried, Madam Speaker, because we're in September. If I ask any member here who has received all the quotas of CDF for 2023, no one here. It's only about 6 million, Madam Speaker, that each and every constituency has received. Yeah. Now, how are we going to develop, Madam Speaker, if we cannot receive the whole amount of CDF? This is the third quota. And yet, people want us to develop. We need, if we need to develop, the money has to be in our accounts. Because as I'm speaking, Madam Speaker, the people of Nakonde, they haven't received 2023 CDF, maybe other people. And the other arrangement, Madam Speaker, that I would want to put across, we cannot be only talking about CDF, always CDF, 1 by 2 classroom block. When is the central government going to start also some projects in some of the constituencies? I can ask here, Madam Speaker, how many people?
Honorable member, unfortunately, you cannot ask your colleagues. This is a debate, and you are supposed to address your debate to me, not to your colleagues. So that question to your colleagues does not stand. Please observe the rules as you are debating.
Madam Speaker, the real issue is we haven't received the CDF for 2023. We have only received part of it, which is 6 million. And this is September. When are we going to start implementing the projects? That's my question. Which means, Madam Speaker, for CDF 2023, we start implementing in 2024. Yes, because we haven't received anything.
Order. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member from Pika, what is your point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and apologies to my colleague, the one who has taken the floor by a storm. These are men that we need in the House.
Order.
I apologize, my colleague. Madam Speaker.
Order.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order pursuant to standing order number.
Honorable Member from Pika, order. I'm sure he's not the only man that I can see here. I can see a lot of men seated in here. So, Honorable Member, you were actually out of order to just say he's a man. There are a lot of men in the House. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on a point of order pursuant to standing order number 204G. A member shall listen in silence to the debates in the House. Against this standing order, Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member of Parliament, senior member for that matter for Dundumwezi, is passing running comments and insinuating that the Great North Road from Chinsari to Nakonde has been done by this government when he knows it was started by the Patriotic Front government, funded by the African Development Bank. The whole amount of the money is in order to mislead this House and disturbing the debater on the floor who is debating very well, raising issues that the Zambian people want to listen to. I seek your ruling, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much.
The fact that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Dundumwezi was not given the floor to say something Whatever he said, actually, we didn't even get it here. However, the only mistake that he did was to say something when the colleague is on the floor. We are all supposed to be seated quietly so that we give room to our friends to debate. So actually, I was hearing a lot of voices. So all the members who were talking, please, when the honorable member was on the floor, were actually out of order. We are supposed to be seated quietly to listen to one person who is on the floor. The honorable member for Nakonde, please wind up debate. No, we have to make progress.
Thank you very much, Madam
We
Speaker.
have to make progress.
Madam Speaker, on page 4, Madam Speaker, the President is stated to say we have managed to reduce the end of the year inflation to single digit. Madam Speaker, how can we have a single digit without any meaning? No impact to the Zambian people, to the cost of living, because the inflation rate, Madam Speaker, has to translate.
Order, honorable member, your time is up. Let's structure our debate also. We should be observing time so that we can conclude nicely. I'm going to balance the debate. The next member will be the honorable member for Kabwe Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Kawe Central to debate on the motion on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, I just want to thank the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for the speech that he delivered, on which he shows sincerity and exactly what is happening in our country. Madam Speaker, I'm compelled to at least discuss on the points that were not on my paper, arising from other issues which our fellow members are bringing in before this House.
The honorable member for Kabwe. Honorable members, I think the points of order are distracting us. I'll become so reluctant to admit points of order. We want the debates to flow. Otherwise, if we keep on interrupting, then we are even disturbing the people of Zambia who are trying to concentrate to listen to what is being discussed here. The honorable member for Chinsali, what is your point of order?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I apologize to the honorable member who is on the floor. Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order number 65, which talks to us about speaking and talking about information and issues that we can verify. The honorable member who is from debating before the one who is on the floor, that is the honorable member for Nakonde, Madam Speaker, he stated that all the constituencies have not received CDF. He further went on to say we have only received 6 million kwacha, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, was the honorable member in order not to explain to the people that the money that we have received, it's in fact less than a quarter of the money that we have received, because he may have misled the nation that we have received CDF, when in the actual sense, a quarter of CDF now, it's 7 million. So was in order to say we have received 6 million, when what we have received is actually less than by a million. A quarter of CDF, by now we are supposed to have received 21 million. We are in the third quarter. I seek your serious reading, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I think some points of order are not necessary, especially that we are going to have the ministers respond to whatever issues are being discussed here. We expect the Minister of Local Government to come and respond to issues to do with CDF, to give us the accurate information. Because the way it came out is like you haven't received anything. Then he said you received 6 million. So for me, let's just wait for the Minister of Local Government, because I, for one, I don't know what you've received. All what I know is that you've received something. But the Minister of Local Government will come to respond to such issues of CDF. At this point, I'm so reluctant to take any points of order. Please, let's make sure that as we debate, we take into consideration the standing orders. And let us also be responsible enough to debate what is supposed to be talked about, the content of the presidential speech. So no more points of order, so that we allow as many people as possible to debate. The honorable member for Kabwe Central was on the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to bring to the attention of the House on issues that the President brought before this House on economic transformation. I'll straight to go to agriculture. I'm so delighted that the government has talked about stimulating production of, especially of our staple food. Madam Speaker, we all know very well that the country where the UPND found it was that economy was at its knee. And now it was prudent for the government to make sure that they restructured the debt, which was really strangling us, and we could not work, we would not do anything. So after restructuring the debt, Madam Speaker, now the government have come up with enabling environment to make sure that Zambians now start producing the staple food that we need, much so that we reduce even the cost of mealie meal that our people now are complaining about it. There is no magic, Madam Speaker, apart from increasing production. And the president has said now we are going to create a credit window to make sure that all Zambians, be it public workers, be it our small scale, should make sure that we all embark in producing our staple food so that we reduce the price of mealie meal. There is no magic. There is no magic. And I urge all leaders here to urge our people to make sure that this coming season we all embark in growing our staple food. There is complaints maybe between the borders, because most you find that border people, they are engaging in trading instead of producing our food. So we should make sure that we produce our food to make sure that our staple food reduces the prices. And I want to thank the government, because also now there is irrigation that the government have said that we do not want to rely on rain fed. We want to make sure that we engage also in irrigation. This is also going to increase our production.
That caucus by the honorable member for Chinsali, Lumezi, I think the voices are too loud. You are allowed even to go outside so that you can speak freely, instead of disturbing the proceedings. The honorable member, you may continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I also just want to urge our members to make sure that, as I've said earlier, we encourage our people so that we produce more food. Our president also was so strategic, let me say the UPND government, to increase the price of maize, because this is what was making our people not to produce maize. If you look at the last farming season, most of our people grow soybeans, and hence we don't have enough food in our country, but yet the whole region wants our maize. So now, because there's increased the price, we are going to, everybody else will be initiated to make sure that we grow more food, we grow more maize, to make sure that our food, our maize also at least has, the prices are low. Apart from that, our government is strategic. They have embarked also to make sure that we empower our people. Through empowerment program, also we are increasing the disposable income so that our people can have more money even to buy the staple food. We have also the government strategic, what there's free education. From free education is also a cushion because our people now are no longer paying for education, meaning they are saving money now which we are paying for. Sometimes we should, as leaders, provide leadership. We make sure that we tell people that if the minimum is meant for our people, for our poor people, let it be like that. Then we are inflating the prices. Our honorable minister there of Home Affairs went to commission Kalonga, but now instead of people buying at 175, people are buying and selling at 220. What is that? We are killing ourselves. And so it is not the government's duty to provide enabling environment. Our duty is to make sure to encourage our people to grow more food. There is no magic. You cannot say no minimums, but there is no magic. That is the whole thing what we're talking about. Thank you so much, and I just want also to urge our government, as the president have said, that there's $300 million for to improve our farm blocks. We want to urge the government to make sure, let us make sure that we translate this program now from a paper to the reality so that we see opening up of the farm block so that we make sure that we have got big irrigation fields, yes. Now, Madam Speaker, allow me to talk about mining sector, which is very significant to the economic development of our country. And I just want to say congratulations to our Minister for KCM. But what is important now is to make sure that we protect our minerals from bleeding to other regions, to outside the country without value addition. I want to make a suggestion, Madam Speaker, to say that like gold. Gold is going outside the country. We don't know who buys. We find that a lot of our youth are outside there, they are digging our gold, but we don't know who buys, we don't know where it's going. I urge as a government so that let us make sure that we give artisanal licenses to our local people, cooperatives, small-scale miners. And when we do that, thank you so much also for Minerals Regulatory Commission. It is coming. We know they're going to be decent. Also, as Zambians, we need to be strategic. We come up with also a board that is going to be buying gold within Zambia. If we do that, we're going to empower our own youth, and we're going to make sure that the country is going to correct taxi from at least our small-scale miners, and also the country are going to export it, and we're going to realize much revenue in our country. So this one we urge, especially for my youth in Kabwe, they are ready to make sure that they receive these artisanal licenses. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the road network and thanking the government for the dual carriageway, but we are urging government as well, said that we want our people to benefit, especially in Kabwe, our youth are ready, our companies to be subcontracted, so that at least we take a cake from the dual carriageway. And now I'm worried, Madam Speaker, because already we have seen big companies that are coming again, foreign countries that want to be supplying sand, to be supplying stones, which is meant for our people. So we want to urge the Minister of Infrastructure.
The Honorable Minister of Health. The Honorable Minister of Health. You are actually between myself and the person who is debating. Okay.
Thank you. So we are urging the Minister of Infrastructure to make sure that our people benefits to be subcontracted 20%, but I wish it can be increased to 50%. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about the issue of environmental protection that our government and, of course, the local authorities, we are told that the government mentioned, the president mentioned that we want to make sure that the local authority find a way of making sure that our environment are clean. We want to urge the government to make sure that maybe they can give our investors a tax holiday to make sure that at least many investors will come to make sure they embark in recycling.
Your time is up, Honorable Member. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to say a few words on this presidential speech. Madam Speaker, the President touched on a number of issues, but due to limitation of time, I think I'll just touch on very few issues. I represent a rural constituency whose economic activities is based on agriculture. It is not debatable that the agriculture sector continues to play a critical role in Zambia's developmental agenda. Madam Speaker, the majority of our people, especially in rural areas, are involved in agriculture. And when the agriculture sector is not properly managed, it affects the whole country. I think I'll go to small-scale farmers. If you look at the numbers of beneficiaries in last year's budget, you find that again this year, the same number of beneficiaries. Meanwhile, cooperatives, people were encouraged to form as many cooperatives as possible because they were hoping that this government was going maybe to double the number of beneficiaries under the Farmer Input Support Program. But that has not been the case. Last year, people were sharing fertilizer in Medas. So with the increased number of these cooperatives, I don't know how people will be able to share the fertilizer this year. Madam Speaker, the issue of escalating cost of meal is a source of grave concern. I was on the Copper Belt last week, Madam Speaker, where people told me that you sent this message to President Hakainde Hichilema and his government that the people of the Copper Belt are failing to put 3 meals on the table. And this is a very serious issue which we must not gloss over. The people on the Copper Belt are saying that for the first time in the history of this country, people are buying meal on lay-by. They can't manage to go and buy a bag of meal, and that is a fact. I know that our colleagues don't want to listen to this, but this is what the people on the Copper Belt are saying and everywhere, that now we are buying meal on lay-by. It's a very, very sad development indeed. We have heard to say...
Member, that is something new we are hearing. Where is that happening?
This is Copper Belt in Ndola particularly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member, please let's try to be so factual, especially when we are talking about things that are happening in the country. Let's make sure that what we are talking about is truly happening. We don't want to spread false information. You may continue.
Well guided, Madam Speaker. I tend to wonder when we say the price of Mimo is going to come down. How does the price of Mimo come down when the cost of electricity is escalating? How does the price of Mimo come down when the cost of fuel is escalating? You cannot reduce the price of meal when these factors of production actually are expensive. So I think it is important that we must tell the people of Zambia the truth. So the issue of meal must be handled with extra care. I do support a cost-reflective price of maize for our small-scale farmers. But I think it is important that we must look at both sides of the coin. People are saying that everyone should be a farmer. Not every person can be a farmer. There is division of labor. So I still feel that I think it is important that this government must deal with this matter, lower the cost of production. That's how we are going to reduce the price of meal. The New Dawn government lost a golden window of opportunity, Madam Speaker. I moved a private member's motion here, which was urging this government to transform the food reserve agents, so that instead of FRA just buying maize for strategic reserves, it must be used also as a vehicle to export maize on behalf of small-scale farmers on condition that those small-scale farmers in cooperatives will be able to sell to FRA at a lower local cost than the other percentage you sell on the lucrative foreign market. You are going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. a farmer was going to be happy, then a consumer was also going to be happy. But what did we see? That bill, that motion was shot down. Madam Speaker, the credit facility the President talked about, people in Chama North were asking, who is going to manage this financial institution? Is it going to be government-driven or public-driven? We don't know whether it will be this year or next year. So people are in a dilemma. They don't know when this credit window is going to be established. So I hope the Minister of Agriculture will come to this August House and tell our people when this credit facility is going to take place. Tourism. Madam Speaker, I come from a constituency which is dominated by the wildlife. Yes, the President mentioned that we received more than 600 tourists in the first half of 2023. Of course, to come and visit our tourist sites and, of course, wildlife. Madam Speaker, yes, we do support foreign exchange from these tourists, but we feel that the President's speech did not meet the expectations of the people of Chama North because he never mentioned what measures this government was taking to contain escalating cases of man-animal conflict. There is no way we are going to be keeping these animals. Our people are dying. Food security is under threat. So we want to appeal to this government that as quickly as possible, they must come to this House and amend the Wildlife Act so that we provide for compensation for people who lose crops and also people who lose their lives. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, CDF. We all appreciate that CDF was increased. We have no doubt about it. Yes, although certain powers have been decentralized to the provincial office, we feel that this government must do more because there are certain things like disasters. You have to make sure that the Attorney General clears that, and it takes too long for these projects to a blown-off roof to be worked on. So, Madam Speaker, CDF is driven by members of parliament. And any maneuvers meant to undermine the functions of members of parliament, I think is not welcome. When CDF projects go wrong, a member of parliament is blamed. But when it is all roses, the member of parliament is not even considered. I think that is not correct. An MP cannot even commission CDF projects. Is that being fair? Surely. I don't think that is right. Madam Speaker, it is important that I think we are not going to accept a situation where members of parliament, they are being undermined. I do not think that that is fair, and we appeal to this government that let's not make laws meant to target certain individuals. You don't need to be rocket scientists, that certain things which are being tailored is to disadvantage those constituencies which are held by opposition members of parliament. But this is going to affect everybody, so we need the members of parliament to have full control on the CDF, because whenever anything goes wrong under the CDF, it is the members of parliament who are blamed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much. We'll go to the right and then the independent member, the honorable member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Kawata to add their voice on the motion that is before the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, the people of Kawata want to indicate that they support the speech by His Excellency. Madam Speaker, the President raised a number of issues in his speech. Number one, I'll talk about local government, where he did actually touch about the increasing allowances or salaries for our councillors. And no one should even decide to take the credit for that. It is the UPND government that actually has decided to increase the salaries for our councillors. Madam Speaker, if you look at the other thing that the President mentioned was amending the law, urging the members of parliament that they go back to the council. This is going to assist all of us as members of parliament, because what is happening in the council, we have a council that is making decisions without even the members of parliament knowing what is happening. As a result, they are actually making the works of the members of parliament to be more difficult. Madam Speaker, on the issue of CDF, I don't think if it is right for someone to come and start lamenting that CDF is not enough. If you can fail to utilize the little that you have been given, you are failing to implement projects, then it means that you are a failed leader. Madam Speaker, we have other people that have not even implemented, not even a single project. I have not mentioned any constituents, Madam Speaker. I am speaking about individuals that have failed to implement just one single project, and yet they want the money to be given to them. Madam Speaker, we are not living in the olden days where CDF would even be disbursed after 3 years, after 1 year. We are in a time when the government, when they make a decision that we should give the CDF to each and every member of parliament, it is actually given. Madam Speaker, allow me also.
The honorable member on the floor, try as much as possible not to debate your friends. Just stick to, you are doing fine, but avoid just debating your friends. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, the reason why I'm not arguing with the Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me continue, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I believe that also with the Council, the President did actually talk about amending the law, the Local Government Act, where MPs should actually go back to the Council. Allow me to talk about corruption, Madam Speaker. There are 2 points that I want to raise, Madam Speaker. In this society, you have what you call the corrupt in society who want to influence the society. And you also have the people who are going to cause an impact in terms of corruption. Let me start with the first one, Madam Speaker. The corrupt in society. Madam Speaker, in the olden days, we saw back way 4 or 5 years ago where the corrupt in society were actually glorified. They even took up their status in society and decided to hijack almost each and every society, every institution in our country. You look at the churches, Madam Speaker, they even have the audacity to go to churches. And I would wonder why, Madam Speaker, why that even the men in color, they would even want to worship, to start glorifying. People are corrupt.
Honorable member. Order, honorable member. Don't move away from the speech. Can you please be within the content of the speech?
Madam Speaker, I'm actually talking about corruption because we saw in the past, in this country, Madam Speaker, we have a tendency of glorifying people involved in corruption. And this is what has been happening. Madam Speaker, the people that are actually talking loudly, Madam Speaker, these are the same people that we saw that in the past, corruption was an order of the day. Madam Speaker, allow...
Honorable members, order. Let's not disturb the honorable member on the floor. We are supposed to listen in silence. Your time will come. We have plenty of days, and we hope that each one of you is going to debate. That will be very good. We want to hear from you. So can we give the honorable member chance to use his time well, in silence?
Yes, Madam Speaker, let me talk about the impact of corruption. Madam Speaker, today, when you plant a seed of corruption, don't expect the results now. What we are seeing and what we saw 5 years ago of pupils lacking spaces in schools, of pupils not sitting on desks in schools, of many health facilities not having medicine in hospitals. It's because of the seed of corruption that was planted way back 10 years ago, 5 years ago. When you plant a seed of corruption today, expect the results to start germinating after 10 years. And that's the reason why today, Madam Speaker, as we speak, the reason why we are grappling with the challenges of school desks is because of the seed of corruption that was planted by our colleagues in the past. Madam Speaker, the President did actually emphasize that corruption should be fought at all costs, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, also when it comes to the rule of law, Madam Speaker, we have seen that elected leaders and leaders outside there, Madam Speaker, they have got a tendency when they create or commit a crime, they want to run away. They want to start accusing the law enforcement officers of not providing, not doing their job, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of law and order, Madam Speaker, it should be taken very serious. It is high time, Madam Speaker, that even leaders outside there, political leaders, they started respecting the law. We cannot allow, Madam Speaker, every person to make a comment. Every time he opens up his mouth, he's committing a crime. Or we have now seen that others have even gone to the extent of wanting to become like Ingoshe or King Cobra, a spitting cobra, where you know that this what you're doing, it is actually wrong. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, on the issue of agriculture, the president actually...
Members, order. Order. Let's give him chance. He's almost winding up.
Madam Speaker, on the issue of agriculture and the price of minimum, the president was not even shy to go in shanty compounds, Madam Speaker. The president was not even shy to go and face his own people. This is a man who has got a heart for the Zambian people. We saw what used to happen in the past, Madam Speaker. Whenever they would see a shortage of minimum in the country, or whenever we see actually load shedding, people would actually go and hide and take a break and go to some place where they would even start drinking some whiskey. Madam Speaker, but this president,
the honorable members, that is Honorable Simunji. We are not at a stadium, honorable member, for you to raise your hands. The honorable member, please, as you wind up,
I still have time.
Can
1
you
minute,
please
Madam
be
Speaker.
focused to the report?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of minimum prices, Madam, this president has shown leadership. He has not run away from his people. This president, Madam Speaker, has even gone to the extent of meeting different millers so that they can talk about this issue. Madam Speaker, the reason why we are having some of these challenges, it's because of some of the people outside there who are supposed to take up some position. Madam Speaker, if you look at Zambia alone, Zambia has got almost 75 million hectares of land which is supposed to be used for agriculture. But Zambia is only using 7% of that land. Why, Madam Speaker? It's because the Zambians have got a tendency of not wanting to do what they're supposed to do. Madam Speaker, if we want to increase production, the best we can do is for us to go back to the land. Each and every one of us here, if we can take up that spirit of cultivating even 1 hectare, then we'll be able to increase production, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, Madam Speaker, I want to support the speech of the President as the people of Kawata say thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The independent, the honorable member for Lumezi.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very kind for permitting the voice of Lumezi to make its own submissions on this motion of thanks. Madam Speaker, permit me to mention from the onset that I've got 2 different copies of the presidential speech. I'll rely on what the Hansard has given me to speak to the speech. Madam Speaker, we must be sincere with ourselves. Madam Speaker, this is a government that can make the deaf to talk. Madam Speaker, last year we were told they're employing 30,000 teachers, 11,000 health workers. Madam Speaker, you reduce the number of teachers from 30,000 to 4,500. The difference that they're employing this year. As a matter of fact, the president said this year you are employing 4,500 teachers. Madam Speaker, you talk of the cost of mini meal as a result of being in some instability somewhere. That's not true.
the president had encouraged people last year to grow a lot of soya beans because he had found a market in China. The people in Lumezi grew a lot of soya, and then what happened when it came to market soya? The government said they're not buying soya. Last year, the people in Lumezi were buying soya at 15 kwacha a kg. Today, they're buying soya beans, they're selling soya beans rather at 6 kwacha. Who misled who? And then we come here to mislead the Zambian people, to mislead the people of Lumezi, when you've deliberately created a narrative that farmers should grow soya because there is a buyer in China. And then, when there was a buyer in China, the president had not yet visited China. Now that he has visited China, we do not know whether he's coming to tell us to grow soya or not. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the president came to talk of 1,700 kilometers of roads being rehabilitated and being done. Madam Speaker, Lundazi Chipata Road, not done. Chasefu Chama Road, not done. I don't know where the 1,700 kilometers are being done. The president talked of 149 schools completed. Where? The last boarding school in Lumezi was constructed under the MMD government. So, those that write speeches for the head of state should be paying attention to detail. They cannot allow the entire president to come here with false numbers. Madam Speaker, it's a fact. There is no 149 schools anywhere in this country that have been done in the last 2 years. Madam Speaker, you talk of SMEs, how the government is going to empower small and medium entrepreneurs using the enhanced CDF. Enhanced CDF, where you've only given us 6 million kwacha. When we are yet to end the year, there is a deficit of 21 million kwacha. We cannot be preaching that we've given you CDF, telling the people in our constituencies to raise against members that there's 28 million kwacha, when it is only 6 million kwacha. Yeah. Who is misleading who? And we are here saying, yeah. Bora Panchwane.
Honorable member, can you translate the Bora Panchi?
No, trap the ball onto the ground and relax. Madam Speaker, you talk of saying the composition of CDF, exports of avocado and rose flowers. Madam Speaker, in Lumezi we don't grow rose flowers. The president should have come here to tell the Zambian people how much maize we have exported into the DRC, into Tanzania, into Kenya, and not create a narrative that because of some instability somewhere, that's why the cost of milk is going high. This behavior of misleading people because we claim to be farmers when we're not farmers should come to an end. Madam Speaker, that whoever wrote that speech misled the president, and they should have done a better job. Madam Speaker, rule of law. For the first time in the history of this country, Cap 12 that protects members of parliament has been ignored by people that I suspect to be junkies. But some minister who is in charge of suspected junkies that were recruited by the PF government, and he has continued to supervise those junkies, is here. Madam Speaker.
Honorable member, I've missed you. Who are these junkies? Are we talking about policemen or I'm lost there? Are there junkies who've come or can you please be very clear? And let's be very factual so that we do not mislead the people out there that they are junkies. I don't know whether it's in the police service. Can you be very specific and very clear? You may
Madam
continue.
Speaker, the current Inspector General of Police is on record, and it's in the public domain that he said the previous government had employed junkies as policemen. And I suspect only junkies could not understand that Cap 12 is very instructive, that for you to be in contempt of the House, is interfering with our works, either from when coming here or leaving this place. Only suspected junkies. I agree with the IG. And the minister who is in charge of suspected junkies is part of us. Madam Speaker, we must be factual. Madam Speaker, the president in his speech says we do not discriminate. Madam Speaker, this is a joke of the century. Madam Speaker, we've got members in this house deliberately being discriminated to sit in one of the most defunct committees because they are detested. It is a fact. Others are in 2 committees, Madam Speaker.
Honorable member, I think that is not in the presidential speech. The committee thing is not there. And more, for your own information, that one is administrative. So, like the Honorable Madam Speaker, when she finished the announcement, she said if there are any members who've got problems with the placements of individuals, they are free to go and see her. It's not an issue for debate on the floor of the House, because even if you debated it, I don't think the people out there would even understand you. So since it's administrative, please use the right channel to air your grievances on your committees. You may make progress on another issue.
Madam Speaker, to an extent that it's administrative, I agree. But I also agree that it was in the presidential speech. He said we are not discriminative. And I was trying to raise a point why there is discrimination taking place. Madam Speaker, as a matter of fact, there is no constitutional amendment that can take place if this discrimination continues. Madam Speaker, the President should have been advised or told that the House is divided. There is no progressive constitutional amendment that can take place as it is right now. Madam Speaker, these are facts. Our colleagues believe that if they are brutal, taking a member into a cells meant for junkies will make them fall in love with them. They're misleading themselves and cheating themselves. The president talked of saying some of you borrowed from the imperialists and you don't want to talk about imperialism. We are not here to champion an agenda for the imperialists. We are here to push for an agenda for Pan-Africanism. And those that do not subscribe to that thought should start counting their days, because their stay in power is not in perpetuity. It is temporal. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Which side? The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity to debate the motion of thanks. Madam Speaker, in debating the motion of thanks, allow me to address myself to 4 critical areas. I'll speak to decentralization, I'll speak to agriculture, I'll speak to fisheries and livestock, I'll speak to the environment. Madam Speaker, decentralization becomes the metamorphosis for those of us who represent the rural constituencies of this country. It is a panacea that this country needs if we are going to get Zambia to have most of its rural areas urbanized, developed, provide amenities, social amenities for our people, bring development closer to the people. It is important, Madam Speaker, that in dealing with decentralization, we ensure that as we talk about decision-making, power to the people, we ensure that in deed and in word, we must ensure that the power rests with the people. Madam Speaker, I'm going to speak and address myself to the CDF component, and I would agree with some of the grievances raised by my colleagues who've gone ahead of me and say that there are bottlenecks that we need to cure. But in saying that we must respond to these bottlenecks, Madam Speaker, I want to say that this is a major component of what decentralization ought to mean to those of us in rural areas. And in this regard, Madam Speaker, allow me to use this opportunity on behalf of the people of Kanchivia and say that we are calling for an increment under 2024. Madam Speaker, any amendments to the CDF Act must be designed to enhance effectiveness and efficiency insofar as service delivery is concerned. We want to place on record on behalf of Kanchivia that whatever we do, be it on the side of those of us who are in the opposition or those of our colleagues on the right, that whatever we do must be devoid of politics or political considerations, because the moment we introduce politics in service delivery, we suffocate the delivery that the people of Zambia so much yearn for. Madam Speaker, we can bring politics in the delivery and execution of CDF. We can also bring politics in trying to find solutions to the problems we think are existing with the delivery of CDF. Where we bring in politics from either sides of the coin, our clarion call from those of us from Kanchivia is that let us keep this process devoid of politics and political considerations. Madam Speaker, the people of Kanchivia will support progressive amendments insofar as effective delivery, efficient delivery is concerned. And I want to thank the colleagues on the right for deferring the bill that we should have had. I want to salute them because voice populi, vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Madam Speaker, with decentralization, we are able to trigger rural drift as opposed to urban drift. With CDF, we are able to bring development closer to the people. And those of us from Kanchivia, Madam Speaker, will take this particular window of opportunity seriously. Madam Speaker, with your indulgence, allow me to move to agriculture, which is a bedrock of our economic transformation, and to speak to the 4 pillars of economic transformation.
Order. As the time is 1840 hours, I interrupt the proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Day for resumption of debate. Yes, it's
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
debate to resume tomorrow. The House is now adjourned.
The House has adjourned till tomorrow at 14:30. Let's quickly look at what has been considered on the floor of the House. When business resumed at 14:30, we know that Madam Speaker did make 2 announcements, and we share with you the details of those 2 announcements.
In the first announcement, Madam Speaker recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils as well as teachers from Chango Primary School and selected pupils sponsored under Real Project 2023 and their project manager. And so on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
The second announcement that Madam Speaker made was on the composition of standing committees for the 3rd session of the 13th National Assembly. It was a continuation to what she announced yesterday, and in accordance with Article 80 of the Constitution of Zambia, Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, and Standing Order 165-2 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2021. The Standing Orders Committee appointed members of Parliament to standing committees for the 3rd session of the 13th Assembly. The first one was the Committee on Health, Community Development and Social Services, and the Committee on Local Government Accounts.
The third one was the Committee on Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs, Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters, Committee on National Security and Foreign Affairs. Then there was also Committee on Parastatal Bodies, Committee on Cabinet Affairs, Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, and Committee on Sport, Youth and Child Matters, and Committee on National Guidance and Gender Matters.
And she did emphasize that she has completed announcing the composition of all committees and said that if any honorable member finds that they do not belong to any committee, such a member should inform the office of the clerk accordingly. So those are the two announcements that Madam Speaker made earlier on at 14:30, and she did proceed to permit the Minister of Mines to render a ministerial statement, and this ministerial statement was to update the House on to update the House and the nation at large on the status of Konkola copper mines and Mopani copper mines. Details of this ministerial statement, Matimba.
And so the minister did remind the House about the written agreement to suspend the hearing of the disputes between the two parties, Vendetta Resources on the one hand and ZCCM IH on the other, to pursue amicable settlement on the disputes. And so the minister also said that following extensive consultations with various stakeholders, including the unions, government made a very bold decision to restore normalcy at KCM by bringing back Vendetta, adding that the company will return to run and resuscitate the operations of KCM as the majority shareholder alongside ZCCM IQ as the minority shareholder.
And the minister further informed the House that all disputes between the parties have been resolved and all proceedings relating to disputes will be withdrawn with each party bearing their own cost. In addition, Vendetta has committed to the following mutually agreed conditions. The first one, investing $1 billion United States dollars for capital mine development for KCM. Two, paying 250 million United States dollars to local creditors, invest 20 million United States dollars in robust and transparent corporate social responsibility programs.
And the fourth one, to increase workers' salaries by 20% and a one-off payment of 2,500 across the board. And so the minister did also remind the House that ZCCM took control of Mopani from Glencore in 2021, following an agreement to pay the Swiss mining company $1.5 billion in a deal funded by debt, adding that since then government has been engaging with potential equity partners to take over the operations of Mopani, and that due diligence on the potential partners is currently ongoing, adding that government is in a hurry to conclude and secure a partner, as this will further reinvigorate economic activity on the copper belt, as well as contribute towards the attainment of the 3 million ton copper production.
And after that ministerial statement, we did see members of parliament asking follow-up questions, seeking clarity from the Minister of Mines. And after the consideration of that ministerial statement, the House proceeded to consider questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74. And the first question was question 19, which came from Mr. Emmanuel Musonda Lupososhi, Member of Parliament, directing his question to the Minister of Energy, and wanted to find out how many kilowatts of power ZESCO Limited was exporting as of July 2023, following the commissioning of the Kafue Gorge Lower Power Station. And according to the minister's response, they said that Kafue Gorge Lower Power was commissioned in March 2023 to July 2023, and ZESCO exported a total circa of 1.5 billion megawatts of power.
Another question came from Solwezi West Member of Parliament, Mr. Mukumbi, and he posed this question to the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. He wanted to find out a question in two parts: when the government will construct the district administration office block in Kalumbila district. And so the minister did respond to say that government has plans. In the second part of the question, he wanted to find out whether the office block will accommodate all government departments in the district, and the minister responded to say that all government departments will be accommodated once the district administration block is constructed.
Question 21 came from Mr. Kapyanga Mpika, Member of Parliament, directing his question to the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. And we did see the Acting Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development responding to this question. The member wanted to find out in A, when the construction of phase 2 of the Michael Chilufya Sata Hospital in Mpika district will commence. And according to the minister's response, did say that the construction of the phase 2 of Michael Chilufya Sata Hospital in Mpika district commenced in 2023, and the project stalled due to funding constraints, and the project will end by the first quarter of 2024. And the big part of the question was the member wanted to find out what the cause of the delay in completing the project is. It did say that, as stated in A, the cause of delay has been lack of funds in completing the project.
And so those are just some of the questions that have been considered on the floor of the House today. And the House went on to consider one report that was moved by Mwandi Member of Parliament, Ms. Sibeso Sefulo, who moved a motion urging the House to adopt the report of the parliamentary delegation to the 63rd session of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States Parliamentary Assembly and the 43rd session of the African, Caribbean and Pacific European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly held in Brussels, Belgium from 19th to 28th June 2023 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 11th September 2023. And so this report was seconded by Nkana Member of Parliament, Mr. Binwe Ompundu, and this report has since been adopted.
So basically that's the business that has been considered on the floor of the House, and there was a resumption of thanks His Excellency the President's address, motion of 13th September 2023, and there was resumption of debate, and this is a motion that was moved by Mwandi Member of Parliament, Ms. Sibeso Sefulo. So basically that's been the day for today. I'd like to say thank you so much for your time, for being part and parcel of today's parliamentary broadcasting. On behalf of my colleague Matimba Mkoa, my name is Paul Sentidov, and indeed not forgetting the entire production crew. And today we've had Chola Kauma and Jason Manda as our sign language interpreters. Join us tomorrow at 8:30 as we open the station. And remember, tomorrow business begin at 9 hours. God bless and keep watching Parliament Television. Remember, the station closes at 22 hours.
On the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
For a matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
Basically, I'm a villager from Monze, the eastern side of Monze district. This is my second term as a member of parliament, serving the good people of Momba constituency. I'm a married man, obviously with one wife, and I have 4 children. In terms of my education, it's important. The primary school I attended at Gasaga primary school in Monze, in my constituency. And after that, I've gone to different institutions. The last one being I did an MBA. And my specialty basically has been in business management. I specialize in that. But I must mention also that I've learned quite a lot. Being a villager, as I said, whereby I remember I've gone to school. I spent the whole of my primary school, in fact, without putting on shoes until I was in grade 7. And not because my father could not afford, we had a lot of animals. But I think basically, culturally, those were things which we were not paying attention to. So I've been in this parliament. This is now my 6th year as a member of parliament. And I think history has it to that. So far, I think so good in terms of what I've done for the people of Momba constituency. So Momba constituency is a purely rural constituency. Eastern side of Monze district. In fact, let me say just from the northwestern all the way to the eastern side of Monze district. My neighbors are Bwenga constituency, Monze Central, Magoye, and Gwembe. So predominantly rural constituency. My people are mainly in agriculture. We do rear animals and farming. We play a key role in feeding Monze district and other parts of the country. In terms of the population, we should be standing around, I think, 40,000 now. As you are aware, we are going to do another census in this year, in fact, in August. So that I think will give us the good numbers. I must mention that also in terms of the geography, my constituency is peculiar in that I have 5 wards. Out of the 5 wards, 2 wards are in the valley because, as I indicated, I share the boundary with Gwembe. Gwembe predominantly is a valley, and then the other 3 districts, wards are also in a plateau setup. So, because of that kind of differentiation, even in terms of the terrain, what you need to do here and there differs quite a lot. So that is the coverage. You may be interested that immediately you leave Magoye River, there about after the Magoye Bridge, all that is in my constituency. So the Great North Road coming to Lusaka from Monze, I cover part of the western side of the road, and very near, very close to Monze district, Monze town per se. We are talking about just 3 kilometers from Monze town. Then my constituency begins. But surprisingly so, you may be aware that Momba constituency is one of the smallest constituencies in Monze, in fact in southern province. It's one of the smallest, but terrain-wise is challenging to access some places. For Momba constituency, I want to look at in terms of the priorities. What are our key challenges as a constituency? First and foremost, we are looking at the availability of water, both for human beings, that is clean and safe water to drink for people, and both for the animals. And that, for me, has always been my priority. I've said it, and I want, by the time maybe I hammer 2026, God willing, I should have a situation whereby almost each and every village, we have villages, should have a bore. Currently, that is not the case. We still have a lot of our mothers walking long distances in search of water. The same goes with our animals. If you come to Momba constituency, you'll find that we don't have any river, which we call them perennial rivers, which has water throughout. We don't have that. So we rely heavily on dams. And these dams are silted now. So that is our priority number one, the availability of water for our people. And also the road network is nothing to talk about. The roads are quite very, very bad. The schools also. We have quite a number of good schools, but I want also to ensure that some of the community schools we have are upgraded to government school. We don't have desks. Most of the classrooms are no desks. So I can go on and on, but these are the key challenges which is facing us. In developmental-wise, we are still a bit of backward, and now with the increment in terms of the CDF, in fact, makes me to relax a bit in terms of I will have the resources. The challenge now which I have is to work closely with the council to ensure that development is taken closer to the people. So for the members of constituency, my word always has been that we need to work as a team. If we work as silos, basically we will not achieve anything. And I'm their representative, but this is their job. Together with me, I have to match with their expectations. So my request to them, and I want to thank them. If I think the most first place, let me thank them that I've worked in an environment that which is very, very good and conducive with my people, those I do represent. And I'm hoping that this will continue even in this second term of mine, to ensure that we see what we can achieve as a team. If I take a borehole there, I don't want to say I've taken a borehole there. Obviously, that could be my initiative through them. But let it be them saying this is the development we have been crying for. We have worked and we have achieved it together. So I'm asking for their usual support, as always, so that we work as a team to develop the constituency. My doors are open, just like as their doors are open. I've never gone to a place and then they shut me around. So that openness which we have will continue to enhance, I think, should be encouraged and should going forward. Basically, I just want to request them that we work as a team.
Constituency development funded projects have been rolled out across the country by government in a bid to prioritize decentralization, which is a major driver for attaining development, reducing poverty, and supporting job creation through citizen engagement and participation at local level. To actualize decentralization in line with the Constitution, government has decided to take significant resources from the national to local government level. In this regard, the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, has been identified as a major tool to take resources closer to the people. Our crew continue to bring to your screens some of the ongoing CDF projects in some of the constituencies from around Lusaka. The crew was recently in Munali constituency and visited some of the ongoing projects in the 6 wards of Munali constituency, which are Kalingalinga, Mtendere, Kalikiliki, Chainda, Chamba Valley and Chakunkula wards. The tour of Munali constituency started with a visit to the road sites that have been worked on. For a long time, road connectivity in Munali constituency was a challenge as most of the roads were in a deplorable state. The road network in Munali constituency is being uplifted with only minor works remaining before they are fully completed. We spoke to the area member of parliament, Honorable Mike Mposha MP, who is also Minister of Water and Sanitation, who explained the road works that have been done in his area.
The most problems that people were raising was the poor road infrastructure. So we thought that we needed to upgrade the road infrastructure in order to improve the connectivity. You'll be shocked that in certain areas of the constituency you could not get a taxi. If you had a patient in the night, the taxi would not reach where you are, an ambulance would not reach where you are. In fact, just the delivery, the movement of goods into the various, selling points, markets, the shops, the trucks had to park as far as 800 meters, a kilometer. No roads. If you talk about JK Road, was in a very bad state. Vehicles could not pass there. So we have been working on the Irish Road, which is connecting Kamanga compound to a hybrid poultry farm. That was a road which was extremely, impassable, in a very deplorable state. It just became a gully, a drainage where water was just flowing. Vehicles couldn't pass. But I'm happy that we contracted ZNS to do various roads at a cost of 6.6 million kwacha. And among the roads was the one I'm talking about, the Irish Road, connecting Kamanga compound into Chamba Valley hybrid poultry farm. We are also working on, we worked on the Methodist Church Road in Munali Ward. This is a road connecting Methodist Church all the way through Kaunda Square to Chamba Valley area. There's another road we have worked on which passes through the Kaunda Square market, the main entrance of Kaunda Square market, all the way to Chamba Valley. From there, we moved into Mtendere East, the JK Road that I talked about earlier, connecting Salama Park Bridge all the way into Niza Road, then crossing there going into Mtendere. That road was impassable, and ZNS has done some quite good work there. Then other than the Niza Road, we've also done, this is about 1 kilometer for the Niza Road, for the JK Road, and then the Niza Road is about 1.2 kilometers from PHI, connecting PHI through Mtendere and Mtendere East up to Ibex area. This road has also been worked on. Then we've also done Chitukuko Road, which is connecting from Niza Road, which is part of Mtendere East, coming into Mtendere via UCZ Mtendere Church into Chitukuko School, then all the way up to Mtendere Clinic. There's one thing I want to mention about these roads. These are not just roads, feeder roads where you just grade and put the common laterite, the brown one, the brown gravel. These roads, we had to do the road formation, compacted nicely, put laterite, the brown soil, compacted, and then put crusherant, the crushed stones, just to ensure that these roads will be able to stand the test of time.
Although Levi Mwanawasa Hospital is in Munali constituency, it is unable to offer service to the whole area. Hence, there's need to have clinics and health posts across the constituency. In Grippy's compound, there is a clinic that was started in the previous government, but it was stalled, and now works have continued and are near completion. A similar facility was also built in Mtendere compound and is also near completion. The minister assured the people of Mtendere of his commitment to complete the projects left by his predecessor, which are aimed at uplifting the lives of the people of Munali constituency.
Among these projects were a health center in Gripsy compound of Chambabari under Munali ward. We have a project which is still ongoing there, the construction of a health center. This Gripsy compound was in 2000, before 2001, it's just a very small community, but over time it's grown, and I think it was necessary that we have a health center there. So in 2020, there was a project which commenced to construct a health center. Along the way, I think because of lack of resources, that project had stalled. So when I took over, we mobilized the resources to ensure that we finish it off. So the phase one, which had started around between 2020 to 2021, was just going towards completion. So we completed that, and we've now commenced the phase two, which is basically now the fittings, plumbing, electricals, and hopefully in the next month or so, we should have this health center, project completed. Then we have another health center project in Mtendere East under Karikiriki Ward, which again started around 2020. Like the Gripsy compound one, it had also stalled due to issues of resources. This one is almost over 93% complete. We're just doing the final fittings. We've done the towels, the other fittings, and we are hoping in the next 3 weeks, just below 1 month, we should be able to get the handovers of this health center. Okay. Again, this is a very important and very necessary facility considering the population growth of Mtendere East. The people there have been crying for a health facility, and my desire is that once we finish this particular one, we want to find land and do another one, because this alone will not be sufficient. That compound is very big.
Honorable Mposha acknowledged that the rate of crime was high in some areas of Munali constituency, and therefore he recently commissioned the construction of a police post in Kamanga compound.
We heard the cries of the people of Kamanga compound, who for a long time have been living without adequate security. So there was need there for a police post, and to that effect, we have we did allocate resources for the construction of a police post, and I'm happy to mention that this has been procured and works have commenced.
Some residents of Gripsy's compound expressed concern at the lack of clean and safe water, and in response, the minister assured the people of Gripsy that he was looking into their matter.
Our appeal has always been that we must prioritize issues of clean water, provision of clean water, and also sanitation services facilities. So in that area, Lusaka Water Company had put up some kiosks. There's a kiosk there that is supplying water. But obviously the population has grown, and there's need to drill more boreholes and provide clean water there. So what we've been discussing with the community there is to see where we can find an area which is far away from the houses where we could drill the boreholes. The danger now of drilling the boreholes in the middle of that community is that most of the people there are using soccerways or pit latrines. So if you put boreholes in the middle of that community, the chances are very high that that borehole within the shortest possible time will be contaminated. So we are trying to see where we can find some space slightly away from the settlement, put the boreholes there, or a piped water scheme, and start abstracting water there and then distributing to the community. So I want to assure the people of Gripsy that the issues of water will be attended to.
The introduction of free education has attracted a lot of learners to go back to school. This has posed a challenge in terms of classroom space and desks in most schools. However, Honorable Mposha assured the people of Munali constituency of his support in the education sector.
We had to support the free education policy by ensuring that we allocate more learning facilities, classroom blocks in the constituency. So in Charleston, for example, Charleston Secondary School, we had to allocate a project for a 1x3 classroom block, which has taken off. It has been procured and the contractor has mobilized. We are doing another 1x3 classroom block at Chainama Special School. We have a school for the special learners there, and we thought that we could support them with the 1x3 classroom block. A 1x3 classroom block for Kalingalinga School. This too was completed and commissioned. We also allocated some resources to go towards the procurement of desks. You'll be shocked to learn that in the midst of a city, our capital city, Lusaka, most of the schools, you go to Chamba Valley Basic, you go to Kaunda Square Basic, you go to Tunduya, Mumana, you go to Chitukuko, Mahatma Gandhi, Vera, Chainda, all these schools, Chakunkula, Kapwiliomba, Kalingalinga schools, in all these words, these schools are crying for desks. Children in Lusaka have been sitting on the floor. So we have gradually started trying to close in the gap that has existed in terms of the availability of desks, plus also the positive impact of the free education policy, which has seen a lot of children who are just roaming the streets and sitting at home, coming back into a classroom. So we decided that in under 2022 we procure 1,500 desks.
Honorable Mposha also expressed his desire to have recreation facilities in some parts of Munali constituency.
Under 2023, in terms of the recreation facilities, we are going to finance the works for Mahatma Gandhi playing ground in Mtendere. We are also going to work on the Karikiriki ground, and we are working on Mkoro ground in Kamanga compound. Now, all these are bare football grounds, but we are going to, like I said, on Kaunda Square, we are going to level them up, put laterite there, raise the surface. We don't want the water during rain season to remain stagnant on the playing surface, so we want to raise that level so that the water should be able to escape from the playing surface. We're going to plant grass there. We're going to fence those areas so that people, even in the night, will put some, solar-powered lights, so that even in the night people can go there, play football. But there will be strong committees to manage these facilities. My appeal to the people is that we are bringing development, but they must guard against vandalism. We have been walking on very bad roads for a long time, driving on very bad roads. Our children have been playing football on just stone-pitched, football surfaces. But now that we are bringing improved football, grounds, we're going to fence off. We're going to fit them with, we're going to drill boreholes there for watering the lawns, but also the lights. It's incumbent upon the residents of Munali constituency to ensure that they safeguard these facilities. The CDF is their money. It's money coming from a taxpayer, from the government treasury, and it's important that wherever we are, applying these funds, the people must do everything possible they can to ensure that they safeguard this infrastructure from vandalism.
On the issue of bursaries, skills and youth empowerment, Honorable Mike Mposha MP had this to say.
Under the 2022, we also provided some grants to various groups, youths and women, to a tune of 1,760,000 kwacha to try and help various groups to recapitalize their different various businesses. We have also provided some loans to 49 groups to a tune of 2,929,000 kwacha. This amount is yet to be dispersed.
The ongoing CDF projects are community-based and are expected to change the face of most constituencies in the country. The people are also looking forward to seeing the most anticipated development brought into their constituencies.
My name is Honorable Usale Simbao, Member of Parliament for Luansha constituency. I was born on 15th January 1964 in Imbala. I am Lungu by tribe and I'm married. I've got 3 children, all boys. The last one is doing his grade 12 at Impelembe Secondary School. The other 2 are done with university. I am a Christian and I'm very proud of my testimony, and I pray that throughout my life as a member of parliament I will maintain my faith. Luansha constituency is quite a big constituency. We've got about, I think, between 170 to 200,000 people, and there are 16 wards, different wards, and these wards are scattered. Some of them are right in the rural, in the town setup, if you want, but the others are in the rural part of Luansha type of setup, so you find that to get to them you have got to really be tough, because some of them are not even reachable by vehicle, so you have to park the car as you go to visit them. But my constituency right now as it stands, it's nothing to be proud of. We've got people who are very zealous, who want to prosper, who want to do something really good for this country, but a number of things hinder us. For example, the roads. Luansha constituency is terrible. We are really suffering. Luansha constituency has been neglected for too long a period, so you find that the road structures are very, very bad, even the infrastructure. So Luansha constituency on its own is not doing very, very well. My development agenda is, to start with, it's the water in Luansha. You will be very lucky to see a drop of water in Luansha. But now I am working closely with the Minister of Water to make sure that Luansha is well maybe attended to in terms of the water. So really the main thing is the water, that if we can have water in Luansha, that will be a big step forward. The other one, as I said earlier on, it's the roads. You can't like to drive in Luansha. So if we can have the roads done in Luansha, those are the things that I'm looking at. Water and roads are very, very key in Luansha. My word to the constituency is that be patient. With the budget that has just come out, I am extremely happy To me, the way I see the budget, it's not different from when Nehemiah was given the permission to go and rebuild Jerusalem. So you find that this budget seems to be giving me a lot of power to rebuild Luansha. So if the budget is going to be a credible budget which we can go by, I promise all Luansha residents that Luansha will not be the same. Because if you look at that budget, it's talking of water. We have plenty of water. If you look at that budget, it's talking of the infrastructures. The roads will be there. So if you look at that budget, it's talking of job creation. So all that area, Kafu block, there will be jobs around that area. So my word to the people of Luansha is be patient. Good things are about to come.
twalala katufuna misabalasa mutima yalina pamatoniwaleko ikakumbuka kutala silinga bweleleko eno ninama bakutala pazani shindino twalala Ndanya Music Promotion take over
So let's make progress. The next item is I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I thank you for according my ministry the occasion to update the House and the nation at large on the status of Konkola copper mines and Mopani copper mines. Madam Speaker, Konkola copper mines KCM has been under provisional liquidation, a process that was initiated by ZCCM Investment Holdings pursuant to Section 57G of the Corporate Insolvency Act of 2017. ZCCMIH, a minority shareholder, presented a petition for compulsory liquidation in the High Court on 21st May 2019. The petition included an application for the appointment of a provisional liquidator. This was necessitated by the need to protect the assets in the interim period between presentation of the petition and determination of the matter. Following the commencement of winding up proceedings on 21st May 2019, Konkola Copper Mines has been under the full control of the provisional liquidator. As you may recall, on 7th September 2022, ZCCM Investment Holdings PLC, Vedanta Resources Limited, Vedanta Resources Holdings Limited, and Konkola Copper Mines PLC, provisional liquidator, entered into a written agreement to suspend the hearing of the disputes between the two parties, Vedanta Resources on one hand and ZCCM IH on the other, to pursue amicable settlement of the disputes. Madam Speaker, during the protracted dispute, the asset had greatly deteriorated and the production output substantially reduced, which was a very sad development for a national strategic asset, as it negatively affected its operations and stakeholders, particularly in terms of its contribution to the economic activities on the Copper Belt. In order to progress and unlock KCM, government and parties involved were in consistent engagements to resolve the dispute and find a sustainable solution that will be mutually beneficial. Madam Speaker, following extensive consultations with various stakeholders, including the unions, we made a very bold decision to restore normalcy at KCM by bringing back Vedanta. The company will return to run and resuscitate the operations of KCM as the majority shareholder alongside ZCCMIH as the minority shareholder. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to inform the House that all disputes between the parties have been resolved and all proceedings relating to disputes will be withdrawn with each party bearing their own costs. In addition, Vedanta has committed to the following mutually agreed conditions. Number one, investing $1 billion for capital mine development of KCM. Number two, $250 million payment to local creditors. Number three, invest $20 million in robust and transparent corporate social responsibility programs. And number four, increase workers' salaries by 20% and a one-off payment of 2,500 kwacha across the board. Additionally, Madam Speaker, government has also enhanced its position by reinstating the golden share in KCM, which will act as a further safeguard in ensuring that the asset is protected. Madam Speaker, with this development, we have no doubt that the return of Vedanta, premised on the mutually agreed terms and conditions, will unlock mining activities on the Copper Belt, particularly in Chilabombwe and Chingola, through renewed business opportunities for Zambians, guarantee employment, as well as wealth creation for the nation. Madam Speaker, moving on to Mopani Mine, the House may recall that ZCCM took control of Mopani from Glencore in 2021, following an agreement to pay the Swiss mining company $1.5 billion in a deal funded by debt. Since then, government has been engaging with potential equity partners to take over the operations of Mopani, and due diligence on the potential partners is currently ongoing. Let me reiterate, as government, we are in a hurry to conclude and secure a partner, as this will further reinvigorate economic activity on the Copper Belt, as well as contribute towards the attainment of the 3 million tons copper production. Once an equity partner has been secured, I will come back to the House, Madam Speaker, and provide an update. As I conclude, let me once again thank the Zambian citizenry in general and the people of the Copper Belt in particular for their patience and unwavering support during the negotiations with Vedanta. As a government, we are aware of the plight that our people endured, and we will endeavor to avoid a repeat of the state of affairs at all costs in future. We wish to commit that we will expedite the negotiations on Mopani so that the asset is also unlocked and secure jobs and livelihoods for a long time to come. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development. The Honorable Member for Mpika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And let me put it on record that my party, the Patriotic Front, vehemently object the coming back of vendetta. Madam Speaker, in 2014, a consortium of NGOs and concerned protested at the London High Commission, the Indian High Commission in London against the evasion of taxes, avoidance of mining laws by adhering to mining laws by KCM, and such are the things that made the previous government to part ways with vendetta. Even our current president, on 3 occasions, stated that he was not in a position and government was not in a position to bring back vendetta. Honorable Minister, the pledges that vendetta has made this time around are not different to what they made in 2000. Why have you brought back vendetta despite its bad record against the Zambian people on the Copper Belt? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll give an example as I answer the question from the Honorable Member, that sometimes a bad team or a bad coach fails to perform with the same set of players that a good coach performs with. And it takes 2 to tango. There is a good coach now and Vedanta will behave. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mufurira.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, the people of the Copper Belt and the people of Zambia would be interesting to see how the Vedanta of UPND will be different from the Vedanta of PF. So people are very keenly looking forward to see the difference. Honorable Minister, during the Sunday interview on ZNBC, you are quoted to have stated that Vedanta is not expected to make profits for the next 4 years. We have also read in the international media that Vedanta, the holding company, is highly indebted and is seeking refinance for the group as a whole. Given these financial challenges that have come to the fore, how is Vedanta going to fulfill the pledges and the commitments that have been signed and committed to the people of Zambia? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. It is not correct to say that I said Vedanta will not make a profit in 4 years. Please go and listen to the interview again. Madam Speaker, the question asked by the Honorable Member, when you are dealing with any businessman, if there are businessmen here, show me a businessman who has no debt. What is important is to do your financial due diligence and put conditions in place that will make sure they fulfill. If they don't, there is a deemed offer that will trigger and will get back the mine. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, you and I understand that Vedanta was actually placed under receivership. I wanted to find out, because you may know from the past, from the time Vendetta was placed under receivership, there were stories that the assets of that mining company were actually looted by either members of a political party and other Zambians, including the liquidator. I wanted to find out, what action are you going to take for those that were involved in the loot of the assets of Vendetta?
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. It is true that there are suspicions of looting during the time of provisional liquidation. But I want to say, Madam Speaker, that the cases are in court concerning the initial provisional liquidator. So I may not go into the details because I may be cited for contempt. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kantanshi.
Most grateful, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your speech, for your statement to the House. I just wanted to find out, I have been following your media pronouncements in as far as trying to inform the nation about the deal that you have acquired or you have made available in terms of Vendetta coming back. But there's one point that you keep talking about, and that is to say that the last government used to have a relationship with the investor, which made the investor start to not to oblige to some of the laws, meeting statutory contributions because of the relationship that was existing between various players in that political party. Now, those are very serious observations that you have been talking about. I would like to find out how the New Dawn government is going to immune itself from those issues you have been talking about that led Vendetta to end up the way it ended up. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member, for that question. The first thing that government should do in relation to any investor, not only Vedanta, is to follow the rule of law. A government must respect its own laws. A government must respect its own rules. And the government, any government, has got, for example, in the mines, we have the Mines and Minerals Act. It provides for everything in terms of how an investor should behave. There is a Ministry of Finance through ZRA checking whether taxes are being adhered to. We have gone further ourselves, introduced the Ministry of Green Economy, which is checking environmental issues, because one of the issues that was rampant during Vedanta's time is lack of, adherence to environmental, rules. So, and then we have also gone a step further by introducing the Ministry of SMEs. You realize that the Mines and Minerals Act provides for the provision of businesses to local suppliers and contractors. It's just that we haven't been following the law. But this government is saying we are going to respect the rule of law. We implement the law to the latter. Anyone found wanting in terms of going to invest, to bed with any investor, will be dealt with. I think that His Excellency the President has shown the way. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that ministerial statement. Minister, I'm alive to the fact that trade unions in the mining industry petitioned the previous government to get rid of Vendetta because of failure to meet previous investment pledges. Now, this company is pledging to give 20% salary increment to the miners without engaging trade unions in the mining industry. Don't you think that by coming up with that 20%, this company is trying to undermine the collective bargaining process?
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. If you've been following how the discourse on Vedanta, we are always with the unions. As a matter of fact, KCM employees haven't had a salary increment for 5 years. So on the table was that offer, and we had to discuss and debate that really they need an immediate salary increment, but that will not be the end. Now a door will be opened because reinstatement means now unions can engage. Because previously unions couldn't engage, they were nowhere near the assets. Right now, they have been reinstated, and now the unions can engage even beyond the 20%. They have the freedom to do that. We have opened the way in the negotiations, and they can go beyond the 20%. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, we appreciate your ministerial statement. And just for the purpose of our people listening to us, this Vedanta, the investor, came into this country between 2003 and 2005, after Anglo-America pulled out of the KCM. And at that point, they took some undertakings in terms of obligations that they were going to fulfill. And this is the investor, Madam Speaker, who is known to have gone to the world, bragging about how he bought that investment for a song. It's in, records are there, and people have been able to access that. You cited the law which ZCCM-IH utilized to get KCM into liquidation. This has been a build-up period. You stood there, Honorable Minister, assuring this August House and no one else that Vedanta has been assessed to be a very unreliable investor and that you were not going to consider. Here, we can extract the verbatim. Is here, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister. We have looked at the figures that you have given in terms of what Vedanta is now pledging. Nothing different. Nothing different. The questions colleagues are asking is, what is it that this investor is going to do differently? Forget about the players and the team. They were brought under President Manasseh, the late, may so rest in peace.
The honorable members, I think we are now going somewhere else. Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, ask your point of clarification. I think you have done enough opening remarks.
The point of clarification we are seeking from the Honorable Minister, what guarantee do we have that you won't come back here and complain about this investor who has proved to be very unreliable? Over the period of time, he has been here, he was given chance to remain, to make good of their pledges, which never came to fruition. And as a result, this CCMIH had to revoke the provisions that they thought were to be revoked, and PF government supported ZCCMIH. What guarantee do we have, Honorable Minister, that you won't come back and change just as you have changed from the position you gave to this August House? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and thank you, Honorable Member. I want to put it on record that I have never come here to give a statement. This is the first statement, Madam Speaker, we are giving on the restatement of Vedanta. So I don't know where the honorable member is referring to. This is the first time that we are doing this statement. The guarantee, Madam Speaker, the challenge, sometimes I'm tempted to say a lot of things, but I want to avoid today. The challenges of Africa, Madam Speaker, and Zambia in particular, are leadership problems, nothing else. Misbehavior of investors is highly dependent on the culture that a particular set of leaders have put in place. It takes two to tango, Madam Speaker. Governments put in place institutions that should be able to check. And the behavior of those institutions is highly dependent on the kind of leadership politicians provide, because we are the policy makers. We make policies, but we also make sure that the policies that we make are implemented, adhered to. That's why we are leaders. So if an investor, Madam Speaker, sees that this government, particular government, is going to bed with us, why should they behave and probably adhere to environmental issues? Why should they behave and probably do mine development rather than start trading the way Vedanta was doing it? We have agreed, Madam Speaker, together with a team of ministers, including Minister of Justice, we have put conditions that can easily trigger their going out in a smart way, because we are a smart government. So if they misbehave in the very first year, it will trigger what we are calling a deemed offer. And they'll go in a very smart way with no fighting of provisional liquidation and bringing people to run the mine that will just create a cash cow. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we
Sorry,
are dealing...
Honorable Member for Pambashe, sorry, before you... Honorable Member for Lunte, what's the point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. For according me, this point of order based on Standing Order number 65 on the Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development, who is on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, a good coach offers good lessons to players. And the players are taught how to maneuver and deliver products that are credible products, I must say. Madam Speaker, if that player is under a good coach, and the good coach ensured that...
Order, Honorable Member, go to your point of order.
This is where I'm going.
What has been breached? Don't debate.
This is where I'm going straight there. Straight.
The
Madam
straight
Speaker,
line seems to be bending on a lighter note. Proceed.
Well, you always provide guidance on a lighter note, Madam Speaker. So if that player is under a good coach who provided an environment for that player to select an investor who is ethical, how is it that the Honorable Minister was able to select a player who behaved badly, wrongly, who behaved fraudulently, just because, Madam Speaker, there was bad leadership then? Is he in order to have refused to follow the tutorials of a good coach so as to select a credible investor for KCM? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Lunte, I don't see what the point of order is there. You were debating now and arguing against what the Honorable Minister was saying. Definitely does not fall under the standing order that we have cited, Standing Order 65. What breach has he committed on the floor of this House? I think that is another area. You can use another way to challenge him, but not by way of a point of order. Definitely listening to you, I didn't get the point of order. Let's make progress. The Honorable Member for Pambashe.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are dealing with the lives of the people on the Copper Belt and Zambia in general. So we must be very sober as we deal with this subject. It's not a political subject. And it's important always to refer to history. Vendetta is not a peer vendetta. It's an MMD vendetta because it came during the reign of MMD. It's a fact. We need to be very correct. And the Minister of Mines, then the Minister of Finance was the Secretary to Treasury. Yes, he was Secretary to Treasury at that time. Now that the provisions that the vendetta came under are different from now, and they've signed an investment pledge of $1 billion to be fulfilled in the period of 5 years. And Minister, you remember Michael Sata rose on the premise of condemning the way Vedata was treating the workers in Chingola and Chirabom, in where you served as a mayor for PF. Now, bearing in mind that Vedata, you and me, we condemned during our days as opposition.
The honorable members, let's not try to go very much far in history on what happened. I tried to accommodate, but it appears that people are drifting back to the olden days. And I know going back to the olden days always has a negative impact on the manner in which our debate flows. So, Honorable Member for Pambashe, please ask your point of clarification.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Bearing in mind that we have a new vendetta that has promised the same thing he promised during the MMD days of $1 billion investment plan for a period of 5 years, it didn't fulfill. Michael Sata condemned, and when we formed government in 2011, we formed a technical committee to review that the same $1 billion was not fulfilled. What are the safeguard measures you've put in for the people of Chirilabombwe, for the people of the Copper Belt, and for the people of Zambia, that if it fails to fulfill the $1 billion pledge for the period of 5 years, you must be able to ask him to say, hey, Bwana investor, you committed to do the $1 billion in 5 years. That means $250 million per year, or $200 million per year. You have failed, you need to exit. Have you put in the safeguard measures to protect the government and the Zambian workers? Thank you.
Although that question was answered, but the Honorable Minister can attempt again to explain.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much, and thank you, Honorable Member. I think it's a way of people trying to justify things that happened in the past by preaching before they ask a question. Madam Speaker, I think I explained on the floor that we have put in trigger points, one of which is funding. Immediately they fail to fund in the first year, it triggers a deemed offer and they are gone. So it's, and that document, you see it, honorable members. Within the first year, we are saying, as you walk on the mine, in fact, Madam Speaker, let me say this maybe for the benefit of the miners out there who are listening to me. Immediately we sign the implementation agreement and the shareholders agreement, and the provisional liquidator is out, and the shareholders, the board is reinstated. Vedanta comes in, number one, with payment for all local creditors. Immediately. There will be no waiting. Number two, the $20 million for CSR must be in the bank before they step on the mine. Number three, the salary increment must be effected immediately they enter. And the 2,500 across the board, immediately they enter. That is a condition. So meaning, literally, Madam Speaker, Vedanta will be walking on the mine with bags of money. That is the agreement. So, Madam Speaker, that is condition one. Number two, it's a funding. We are saying before they start anything, there should be money and guarantees in the bank before they step on the mine. And one of the things that we did, Madam Speaker, and that's why it took us long. If we were careless, we could have made a decision immediately. Those things were on the table. We did what we call the technical due diligence and the financial due diligence with an independent body that ascertained what money will be needed each year. And that report is there, and it is in the agreement. It is legally binding. Meaning if the money doesn't come in, it triggers the deemed offer. So those are some of the conditions. And I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I think the concern for the honorable members is those bags of money. Are we going to be seeing dollars flying all over? Or will the money go in the bank?
Madam Speaker, that was just to make it lighter. Otherwise, the money will go to the bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The honorable member Fonkana.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, it's not me today, Madam Speaker.
Order. Let's allow the honorable member to ask his question.
First of all, Madam Speaker, I feel that it's unfair that the Minister of Mines had to combine two issues, because if you have noticed, the issue of Mopani has completely been overshadowed. My biggest interest is in the issue of Mopani. Not long ago, Honorable Minister, you had mentioned to the country that we were going to make two grand announcements in the name of KCM and the resolution of Mopani. Remember, it has been 2 years, Honorable Minister. Our people are in anguish. They've been thrown into chaos. When are you going to make this announcement over Mopani? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. I was expecting that Honorable Mpundo will be one of the first. So when questions were just going, Madam Speaker, I thought maybe today is dozing because he doesn't let mining pass by. Mopani is less of a complicated asset, Madam Speaker. Honorable MP, but we want to find the best partner for ourselves. And one of the things that has made the discussions a bit protracted is enhanced the way that the shareholding will be structured. But what I can assure you, where we've reached now, if I were to give an analog, I'll say that the meal is on the table. We are just waiting to call the people to come and eat. That's where we are. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I've added 5 more minutes. The Honorable Member for Mwense.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Minister, the challenge I think the mining industry has in this country is that after privatization, I think we were removed from actively participating into the governance and decision making because ZCMIH became a minority shareholder. Why didn't your government find it prudent during this time of your discussion and negotiation with KCM of Vendetta to increase the shareholding of ZCMIH so that you as a government, you can then begin to actively participate into the decision-making processes? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
I agree. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And Honorable Member, thank you for that question. I think that going forward, this is what this government is doing. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, we just declared all the minerals in Zambia strategic. I think Cabinet passed that, meaning that participation of government in all the minerals in Zambia will now be enhanced. It's a big thing, and we have listed all the minerals from copper to sugilite to every mineral that government will be taking a serious stake going forward. We are not rocking the boat. We are not saying we go in retrospect, because then we'll disturb a lot of things. But going forward, that is how we are doing. And I want to assure you, Madam Speaker and the honorable member, that there are so many tenements that this government to participate and benefit from, and through this government, the people of Zambia. In terms of the KCM deal, it was reinstatement of an old investor with the way the shareholding were. ZCCMIH has the leeway even now to begin to renegotiate with Vedanta to say, can we increase our stake on these conditions? And that hasn't been closed. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chipili.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, I want to find out, previously the same company.
Order, stop the clock. Honorable Member, order, Honorable Member for Chipili. Honorable Member for Itej. Oh, Mwembeji, sorry. My Honorable Member for
Madam Speaker, you have already forgotten me. How?
My mind was with my sister.
Thank you, Madam
Mutinta.
Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm standing on a very serious point of order to the Minister of Mines. Minister of Mines, you know that Nampundwe mine is part of KCM. This is where we are coming from in my constituency. Is he in order? Yes, the breach is 65 years. Is he in order to just be talking wholesomely as KCM, not to explain to the people of Nampundwe whether Nampundwe mine is going to be part of the whole KCM, Konkola and Chingola? Is he in order, Madam Speaker? Thank you.
Honorable Member for Mwembeshi, that's a point of clarification. It does not qualify. I saw that maybe you are not featuring here, so cleverly wanted to put in a point of order. May the Honorable Member for Chipili continue, and then when the Honorable Minister is answering the question from the Honorable Member for Chipili, he can combine with the one for Honorable Member for Mwembeshi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I want to find out from you, the same company previously, they used to concentrate on refining, getting copper ore from other mines instead of mining within their premises. Now, my question is, what measure have you taken in place concerning that, so that, because you have already the target that you have set as a government, what measure have you put in place to ensure that the same company continues producing copper within their premises? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Member for Mwembeshi, let me clarify that KCM is Nampundwe, Nkana, Nchanga, Konkola. So the people of Nampundwe, let them rest assured that they are very much part of the deal. In terms of the question by the honorable member for Chipili, is that what we have done in the agreement, the emphasis has been on what is known as the KDMP, the Konkola Deep Mining Project. It is central to the agreement, and it was emphasized because that is the future of KCM. You are right that at some point development was stopped, and therefore the smelter couldn't have enough feed, and that is why they started now working like they are trading. We are going to watch the space and make sure that adherence to the development of the KDMP is priority number one. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The time runs so fast. I'll use my discretion and allow members from the Copper Belt, where I'm sure their representatives want to hear. They can ask on behalf of their clients. I don't know, what is it, KCM also? No. No, we'll talk about, I can see Honorable Member for Chimwemwe. Honorable Member for Chimwemwe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, most contractors and suppliers are small scale, and most of them actually got loans from the banks, and they've been charged heavily because they were under the impression that KCM was going to pay them. So is Vendetta going to pay them the interest, or perhaps government has got other plans to help them with running capital? Because most of them will not have any capital. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I hope the Honorable Minister got that. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Well, it's long. Madam Speaker, I'm just saying that he is speaking with the slang. Thank you, Honorable Member for Chimwemwe. All I know and the assurance I'll give to our local suppliers and contractors is that they will be paid fully. Whether it's with interest or not, no, now those are the details. The assurance we can give our local suppliers and contractors is continued business dealings with KCM. In the agreement, one of the points in the agreement is supplier contractor development embedded in the agreement as one of the checks. So that will also be checking. It's in the agreement. It's legally binding that we need supplier contractor enhancement. Actually, as a government, we are also working on a local content law, Madam Speaker, to be able to promote local participation of Zambians, to create a ceiling on what business levels can only be reserved for Zambian suppliers and contractors. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kankoyo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to agree with the Minister of Mines that Vindata under MMD was indeed different from Vindata under PF. I am a Copper Belt resident, and I saw how Vindata was a player's in choice, an employee's choice during the MMD. Now, Madam Speaker, all these problems I have in the mine, I think they are due to lack of a regulating body. The way we have ERB in the energy sector. In the mining sector, we need a minerals regulating authority to ensure that the adherence to what we are doing. Is the minister considering introducing a minerals regulation authority to ensure that all investors, not just Vindata, adhere to the regulations being set so that the Zambian people are protected? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. You should have emphasized, truly, Madam Speaker, I remember the time in the MMD days I used to be a supplier with the mines. And the Vedanta in MMD was actually an employer of choice. And also, everyone has a history. We also tell you how you were hanging people. So, Madam Speaker,
Honorable Order, Honorable Members.
I withdraw that, Madam
Okay.
Speaker.
Honorable Member for Pambashe, please restrain yourself. May the Minister continue.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I need protection because everyone has a history and skeletons in their wardrobes. Madam Speaker, I know that the differences in MMD Vedanta, PF Vedanta, and now UPND will be seen clearly. I want to assure the honorable member that you won't see the Vedanta of PF in UPND. Madam Speaker, we are very advanced in putting across
Oh, there is the order, Honorable Minister. There is a point of order. Honorable Member for Chiwangandu, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I raise this point of order pursuant to Standing Order 65B. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister on the floor presented a ministerial statement. In that ministerial statement, he talked about ZCCMIH and how they partnered with Vedanta. There was no statement he made in his, during that presentation, which pointed to PF Vedanta, is in order to create another entity as a minister of government who is supposed to present policy matters that are non-political, is in order to create another entity called PF Vedanta. We need to be clear, Madam Speaker, this is an August House where we present facts and verifiable information for the members of the public we represent here. Is in order, Madam Speaker, to create another entity he didn't speak to in his statement. I seek your serious guidance, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The honorable members, I was listening very attentively to the questions and answers. True, when the honorable minister gave his ministerial statement, he did not mention about PF Vedanta or MMD Vedanta or UPND. It's the honorable members, as they were asking questions, they started naming Vedanta in different forms. Some said UPND, some PF, some and MMD. So the honorable minister was reacting to that. And even the honorable member for Kankoyo, the question that he was asking, it was also on those lines. So the minister was reacting to those questions. So the honorable minister is in order. The honorable minister, did you conclude answering? Okay. Honorable members, as we answer and ask questions, let's keep away from these historical issues which tend to bring acrimony in the House. Let's just talk about the current issues as they are. May the minister continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In answering the honorable member for Kankoyo, yes, it is true that we need regulation in the mining sector. And as New Dawn government, we are advanced. The actually cabinet has approved the Mines and Minerals Commission Act, which will be coming now to this House, Madam Speaker, as a bill, so that when it is passed, then we begin implementation. So we are very advanced on that. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable member, I had said the members from the Copper Belt, so time is running out, but I still have two more. There's honorable member for Kabushi and for Kwacha. So we start with the honorable member for Kabushi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to represent the people of Kabushi and the people in the Copper Belt. Madam Speaker, as I was seated here, I've received some text messages from the Copper Belt that the minister has confidently said that the miners in KCM, they will receive 20% increment. On the other hand, they also receive a 2,500 across the board. Now, the question is that in the mines, it's not only the mine that employs people that works in the mine. There are those that are employed by the contractor. Did the minister also put this into consideration to ensure that those that are employed by contractors are also taken care of in terms of remuneration? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order. At that rate, they will have to take consideration of all the Zambians. That was on a lighter note. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Even on a lighter note, you are right. Honorable member, thank you for that question. It has come to me several times. So let me answer it like this. KCM has direct employees. A contractor is an employee of KCM who is told to bring other people with them. So the contractors now who are contracted by KCM, they can also follow suit and increase their salaries for workers, because KCM cannot begin to increase monies for contractors because they are not contracted between KCM and those employees. So basically, it is just direct employees, Madam Speaker. But these are issues that contractors can raise and look at and see how they can escalate it to their workers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Kwacha constituents to
The Honorable Member for Kwacha, there is a point of order from your neighbor. Honorable Member for Mitete, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much. I'm totally sorry to my neighbor. Standing order number 65. 1, A and B. Minister, are you in order not to tell the House and through the House the nation that it is better not to mine in court but at the mine? To mine on site. Are you in order, Minister, on this very topical subject? Not to explain such. Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
Thank you. From the ministerial statement that the minister delivered, he did allude to the fact that it was prudent for KCM not to continue with the litigation, but to discuss and go back to the mines. So what you are saying, the minister has already said. So the honorable minister was totally in order. May the honorable member for Kwacha continue.
thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Kwacha to ask a follow-up questions to the Honorable Minister of Mines. But before I can ask a follow-up question, Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the Minister of Mines and the entire UPND New Dawn government for concluding the negotiations to allow Vendetta to come on board. This, of course, has elated people of Copperbelt, and don't worry about the criticisms that may be coming, because the 2.8 million, which has swelled now to 5.8 million, are behind this government. My interest, Madam Speaker, to the Minister of Mines is on the creation of new jobs by Vendetta, especially our youths that have graduated through CDF skills. Many have done mining-related skills such as heavy-duty repair works, metal fabrication, as well as machine fitting and many other skills. Honorable Minister, would you know how many jobs which Vedanta is earmarked to create now that it has come back? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Honorable Member, thank you very much for the question. And Madam Speaker, I thank you. And thank you, Honorable Member, for the words of encouragement and congratulations to the New Dawn government. In terms of workers, I may not know the numbers, only to say that they are exciting times, because I think that at some point as a country we stopped training craftsmen, artisans. This time for you to find a plumber or a craftsman, it's a very difficult undertaking. But now, through the ingeniousness of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the new coach, we are now able to train people. So in terms of numbers, I'm not very sure, but I think jobs will be created. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Chinsali, just bear with me, please. Can we go through this and finish? I've extended more than the time. Oh, yes, thank you for understanding. The Honorable Member for Masaiti.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, also for recognizing the people of the rural part of the Copper Belt, Masaiti in particular. Honorable Minister, in selecting Vendata, the investor now, you had other firms that had made the shortlist. So we are interested to learn who are these that had made the shortlist when you now selecting Vendata. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and thank you, Honorable Member. The asset was encumbered, it had issues in court, so nobody was interested to be shortlisted with an asset that is fighting in court. That's why when we got out of court, we had to reinstate the status quo. It's now negotiations. If they had said they are walking away, we are going to invite other bidders to come and run the mine. But there was no such a thing, so it was a negotiation to reinstate the status quo. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I think we've really spent a lot of time because of the public interest in the matter. That's why I allowed it to have more time. So the next segment on questions for oral answers will go very fast. We start with the question for oral answer, Understanding Order 74, the Honorable Member for Lupososhi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 19.
The Honorable Minister, question 19. 18 or 19? 19. The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Lupososhi Parliamentary Constituency is asking the Minister of Energy one question. How many kilowatts of power ZESCO Limited was exporting as of January 2023 following the commissioning of the Kafue Gorge Lower Power Station? Madam Speaker, the answer to that is Kafue Gorge Lower Power Station was commissioned in March 2023. From March 2023 to July 2023, ZESCO exported a total of circa 1.5 billion megawatt hour. And maybe I should add to which areas these were sent to. 600 was sent to Nampower. Snail received 295. Botswana received 346. ZESA received 40. Zimplat 141. Through the sub-market, Southern African Power Pool 21. I submit.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Lupososhi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker and Minister, thank you for that answer. Madam Speaker, ZESCO is failing to provide the local market with power. An example is Lupososhi constituency and the Ruling District. RIA has failed to provide the grid extensions to affected areas because the reason given is that there's not enough capacity at the substation. So, Minister, why is it that your ministry is able to consider other countries that first satisfy the local market, who are the taxpayers of Zambia? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's not a question of failing. It's a question of planning and ensuring that the resources are at hand. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Bahati.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Minister, thank you for your response. Minister, kindly share with this August House on the timings of exports. You know, the story out there is that you are exporting power to neighboring countries and load shed parts of this country. So So are you exporting during peak hours, or are you exporting when there's low demand? Of course, I'm alive to the fact that ZESCO has signed some power purchase agreements with neighboring countries. So are you choosing instead to give foreign countries and load shed us here? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Energy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mpichi Wambwe. Madam Speaker, I'm not aware that there's any load shedding in the country, but I can confirm that yes, we are still, ZESCO is still exporting based on the contracts that they entered to previously, I submit.
There is a point of order. Honorable Member for Bangwell, what's the point of order?
Pursuant to Standing Order 65, the minister has just made a sweeping statement that there is no road shedding in Zambia. Samfia district, where Bangor constituency is, we've been experiencing road shedding for the past 2 weeks. Is the minister, in order to mislead this country, that there is no road shedding? Thank you.